bless you.
Children of God, a big amen. Thank you very much. On this note, we are handling national matters. Please permit me to once more beckon on you for us to stand as we take our beloved nation's anthem, Nigerian anthem. May we rise, please. Stand, engineer, please. Help us out. May we put our hands together for our great nation, Nigeria. Please be seated. Your Majesties, chiefs, our professors in our midst, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Frenchman will say crème de la crème à la société, and if Englishman will say who is who in the society. We have array of your Majesties, invited guests, resource persons, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We are going to recognize and acknowledge you all. On this note, permit me to call on my learned senior and friend to come and do justice to acknowledgement. I will join him to do better and further acknowledgement. Barrister Jiro, please.
Your Majesties, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to specially welcome you all to this very important pre-summit convergence. We have with us His Royal Majesty Pere Stanley Perediega Liuk, Kalanama the 8th, JP, Pere of Akugbene Main Kingdom. He is also the first Vice Chairman of the Delta State Council of Traditional Rulers. You're welcome, Your Majesty. Permit me to also recognize with us His Royal Majesty King Obukoho M.A. Whiskey J.P. Ph.D. Udurie the First, the Ovie of the Great Ijere Kingdom. You're welcome, Your Majesty. I also want to specially recognize His Royal Majesty Clement Ogene Rukewe Ikolo Rukbe the First, the King of Ewu Robo Kingdom. You're welcome, Your Majesty. Permit me to specially recognize His Royal Majesty Barrister Ovietobore Anthony Ogbogbo, JP, the Ovie of Great Zoro Kingdom. We also have with us His Royal Majesty King Jumbo Polokowe, Ongola the First, the Pere of Ungbolobri Main Kingdom. You're welcome, Your Majesty. Thank you very much.
Going further, Your Majesties, another colleague of yours is also here with us. His Majesty Barrister Oba Rufus Olaranwaju Ajayi II. Let's put down together for him, please. Your Majesty, I welcome you. I can still remember how you used to teach us in the classroom, law faculty, Ole. I'm happy to see you, sir. God bless you. I appreciate it. All right, going further, Your Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have Professor Anthony Killer, National Chairman of the Advocacy and Mobilization Committee of the Patriots. Let's put hands together for him, please. The leadership and members of PANDEF, they are here. We welcome you. Professor Ezekiel Agbalagba, Vice Chancellor of Furute. Prof, we appreciate your presence. Honorable Chief Barrister Olivia Agbajo, former member that represented the good people of Warri Federal Constituency National Assembly. We appreciate your presence. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Chief Sheriff Molade is also here. Bishop Mike Oyemiri is not left out. The leadership and members of Association of Niger Delta Women for Agriculture, they're also here. Let's put hands together for them, please. The teachers and students of the famous Ossie College, Warri, we appreciate your presence. God bless you. As promised earlier, please bear with us for want of time. Acknowledgement will be coming up once a while. Chiefs here present that accompanied Your Majesties, once more on behalf of the organizers, we appreciate you and welcome you to today's summit. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, permit me for the lawyers that are in our midst that there is an old parlance that says, res ipsa loquitur, that is to say, the fact and evidence speaks for itself. But of course, we need somebody to further intimate us and educate us the purpose of our gathering. Permit me to call on the legal consultant and moderator of events of such magnitude, my role model and confidant, who I so much believe in. I'm standing on his shoulder to do the needful. I'm talking of Dr. Akpo Mudiaga Oje, member, British Council, a constitutional lawyer, to please come and charge up the arena. Let's put hands together for him, please. You can do better than that for him. Senior, sir, you're welcome.
Our esteemed and distinguished Royal Majesties, professors, leaders of men and women, distinguished Deltans and Nigerians. Today's event marks the evolution of our collective zeal to ensure we raise a workable constitution to administer our dear nation. Over the years, we have had issues about living together under one umbrella of law, and indeed, both the common law. But the most important point is that we need to have a consensus. People say that constitutions are settlements where interest groups discuss, make amends, and incorporate one another into unison and the unity of their commonwealth. The Indian community and the nation partitioned itself in 1947, but took 3 years to determine their constitution, sit down, discuss, and indeed in 1950 they came out with the Constitution of India, which is the largest democracy in the world. And that constitution has stood for centuries and years on, as we speak, from the evolution of what they collectively agreed to do. And that's why we are here today. We are taking steps under the umbrella of the eminent patriots to see how we can put things together from here, Delta State, and advance it and adumbrate it to the center, that this represents substantially majority of what we view is our rights, especially those of us from the south part of this country. You will recall that even from the time of representation in our House of Representatives, we have 360 members created through federal constituencies of the federal government. However, you might be shocked to note that of the 360 members, we here representing the South South and Delta State, we have 55 members. Collectively, the whole South South states in this country, we have 55 members of the 360 members of the House of Representatives. Whereas only Kano has 44. Lagos has 24. So in other words, only Kano can stop a legislation coming from the entire South South. These are part of the things that we have come out here to see, how we can rub minds to go and get about that. And indeed, if you look at section 55 of our Constitution, that is the most alarming portion of the Constitution, which many people do not understand and know. Like the prophetic Hosea said in 4:16, that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Section 55 provides that the business of the National Assembly shall be conducted in English, Hausa, Yoruba, or Igbo whenever there is an interpreter. I repeat, that the business of the National Assembly shall be conducted in Hausa, Yoruba, or Igbo where there is an interpreter. I believe we have other languages in this country. And I believe the South-South is the area that lays this golden egg for Nigeria. It is the South-South that produces the money that was used to print the Constitution. It is the South-South oil and gas that produced the money to build the National Assembly. In other words, our resources is a blessing and our language a curse. If the Constitution does not recognize my language, how do I become a Nigerian? These are issues we want to look at this point. And we believe that a simple amendment, that the business of the National Assembly shall be conducted in English or any other Nigerian language, will make us have a form of acceptance in this country. So these are part of the things we want to look at. And at this stage, I would like to yield the floor to our distinguished and very great lady of class, integrity, and intelligence to make a welcome address on behalf of our great body, which is responsible and our umbrella nation on this annual matter. I'm calling on her ladyship, Obongawa Barbara Etim James, to please come to the podium to give us a welcome address. As we welcome her also, let's make welcome. It's a gender balance. It's a gender balance. Let's make welcome her ladyship to give us the open address. Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody. And welcome again to this pre-summit consultation on our national constitution. Special greetings to our distinguished traditional rulers here. It's a great honor, privilege, and pleasure It's a great honor, privilege, and pleasure to be amongst you today to deliberate on our nation's future. I lived in Warri in the mid-80s at the Edewo estate. Indeed, Chief Edewo was my godfather, Christian godfather, not the political kind. I have fond memories of going to Abraka resorts at the weekends. And so it's great to be back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm here to speak about the upcoming National Constitutional Summit convened by the Patriots and the Nigerian Political Summit Group. But before I do that, let me introduce myself properly. I learned that when you are listening to somebody, it's helpful to know their background so you know their perspective and where they are coming from. So before I go on to the business of the day, I will tell you who I am. I'd also like to tell you what I am before I go on to tell you why we are here and what we should do next. My name, as you heard earlier, is Obongawan Barbara Etam James. I am the Obongawan of Henshaw Town, Calabar, the Queen of Henshaw Town, Calabar. And we pay homage to the Obong of Calabar, His Eminence Ididem Ekpo Basio to the Fifth. So I'm a traditionalist as well as a Nigerian. I'm the daughter of a former policeman, Chief Emmanuel Etam James. He, after a police career, went into Shell, had a career in Shell. From there, he went into business and then into politics. His father was a peasant fisherman, a poor fisherman in a tiny village in the Inyong Creeks in Cross River State. My father's story is one that inspires me greatly, because if a man from that background, a tiny village in the creeks, was able to come out of that through a scholarship, get an education in King's College in Lagos, go into the police from the King's College, form a career for himself in business, in politics, and then have me and my siblings. And we have today studied across the world, excelled in careers in information technology and international finance, and come back home to help to build our nation. If my grandfather, that poor peasant fisherman, could have produced me here today, then I have hope for every Nigerian, in every village, in every town, to be able to prosper and harness the opportunities, the blessed opportunities we have in this country. Nothing separates me from the average Nigerian. Nothing separates us from the average Nigerians. And in having this dialogue, it's important that we don't just use the big words of constitution, democracy, etc., but we connect with Nigerians wherever they are. The market woman, the Uber driver, the fisherman, the tailor, and so on and so forth. This dialogue is a Nigerian dialogue for all of us. So in trying to do that, to connect with every Nigerian, I want to read you a poem that I hope touches all of us. I am Nigerian. I want to feel safe. That means I need security. I am Nigerian. I want a livelihood. That means I need a good economy, employment, and education. We are Nigerians. We want to care for our family. That means we need health care, housing, education, the environment. I am Nigerian. I want to be treated fairly and not cheated. That means I need justice and the rule of law. I am Nigerian. I want a good leader. That means I need credible elections, transparency, and accountability. I am Nigerian. I want to be happy. Not just me, but my family, friends, and community. To have a vision, a mission in life, and values, to practice my religion, be active in civil society, and charitable to others. That means I need community, religion, civil society, charities, and entertainment. I am Nigerian. I want some stability. I don't want disruptive surprises. That means I need assurance, insurance, no inflation, climate awareness. We are Nigerians. We want to be free, to grow, to expand our horizons and opportunities, to speak our minds freely, to go around freely, and to find out what we want to know freely. And that means we need freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of information. I am Nigeria, ready to use my talents to make the country grow. That means we need an enabling environment for innovation. I am Nigerian, endowed with potentials to serve my country. That means I need equal opportunity to serve. I am Nigerian, a responsible Nigerian, eager to hand over a better Nigeria to succeeding generations. That means I need future-proof policies. So, ladies and gentlemen, Nigerians across the country are united by our basic human needs, rich or poor. Today, countless indices support the general feeling that our needs are largely not being met as a collective. It is therefore appropriate and imperative that we re-examine ourselves and set out a set of laws that define how we want to live together and meet our needs. That process, that document, is the Nigerian Constitution. A very intelligent man once said, "For to do nothing is to be complicit in the status quo." Ladies and gentlemen, you and I have come out today because we do not want to be complicit in the status quo. What is the status quo? I'm going to mention just a handful of indices that we are all very aware of, that very sadly indicates our situation in the country. On education, one second. On education, ladies and gentlemen, we have over 18 million children out of school, according to UNICEF. On health, we have a lifespan of 52 years. The average Nigerian will live 52 years. On housing, we have over 28 million units of housing deficit. On poverty, Nigeria was once tagged the poverty capital of the world. We have since improved, but today, over 71 million Nigerians out of 220 million Nigerians are battling with extreme poverty. Over 71 million Nigerians are battling with extreme poverty. So whether you and I in this room have a good life or not, we have to be concerned. We have to be concerned, and we have to do something. Because as the wonderful professor said, to do nothing is to be complicit in the status quo. Let's not be complicit in the status quo. And that is why we have called you all out today. And we call on Nigerians today to pay attention to do something. And that's what we are here doing, something. So I've given you my background, and I've told you what I am. I am a Nigerian, no different from any one of you or any one of those experiencing extreme poverty in our country. So what do we do? We are here gathered to have a dialogue and to discuss the upcoming National Summit on our Nigerian Constitution. That summit comes up on the 15th of July in Abuja at the Transcorp Congress Hall. It's intended to be a dialogue for all Nigerians. We will have up to 500 people in the room. There will be representatives from all across the country, north, south, east, and west, all the zones, as many ethnic groups as possible. We will have men, women, youth, persons with disability, different categories of people, from eminent leaders of thought to labor, to civil society, to political leaders, and so on and so forth. We want to have a representative dialogue. But ahead of that national event, we felt it was prudent to speak amongst ourselves within our states, within our zones. And so before the National Summit, which is in just under 5 weeks, there will be a South-South convenance where we will convene leaders, women, youth from the South-South to discuss the issues in our Constitution. And we felt that ahead of that South-South event, it would be appropriate from state to state to come together and discuss what our own requirements within Delta State is. And these discussions are going on in different states ahead of the South-South pre-summit event, ahead of the national event on the 15th of July. What are we discussing? We know that for us here in the South-South, the issues of resource control is paramount. As the learned constitutional lawyer told us, the unfairness in certain situations is apparent. But it's not apparent to everybody. And so it's important we share our concerns with the rest of Nigeria and be prepared to listen to the concerns of other Nigerians. Dialogue is a give and take. The things we are discussing cover the federating political entities. Should it be states? Should it be regions? The different tiers of government. Should we have 2 tiers? Should we have 3 tiers? Self-determination rights. Reconfiguration of the states. Should we have more? Should we stay the same? Should we have fewer? Referendums. How do we decide? What issues do we take to the people to help make a decision? Presidential versus parliamentary system. How well is this system working for us? Should we be looking at other systems? The federal legislature, should it be unicameral or bicameral? Today we have 2, a Senate and a House of Representatives. Should that perhaps be 1? Should they be full-time, part-time? Proportional representation. Number of vice presidents and rotation of the presidency. The responsibilities between the states, regions, and federal governments. Councils of ministers, how to organize that. The judiciary, whether to decentralize or remain a centralized judiciary. The Federal Capital Territory, how we organize that. State and regional governments. Equal rights amongst federating units. The management of resources. Fiscal arrangements, so how much do you give to health, how much do you give to the federal government, how much do you keep for derivation, etc. As security architecture, do we continue to have a centralized security architecture, or do we want to look at issues like state police, for example? Citizens' rights. As human beings, we have human rights, and as citizens, we have citizens' rights. And the need to be able to be justiciable in those rights. If your rights are being treaded on, can you take the government to court? That is what the Constitution is about. Remuneration and compensation of the government, anti-corruption, and you will be happy to hear the role of the traditional rulers and governments in our country. And last but certainly not least, the methodology for bringing all of this about. So those are the topics we will be discussing during the National Summit and during the South-South Summit, and hopefully here. If there are any other issues you wish to be discussed, please bring them up. We are not here to give solutions, we are here to listen and to have some areas of consensus that we can take to both the South-South and the National Summit. On that note, I want to thank you very, very much for listening. I want to bid us a very good dialogue, and I hope that we come out with very strong and good consensus to go into the next stages. Thank you very much.
Please, may we put our hands together for her beautifully. What an optimal address. She started by giving us her background and history. She went further to state about her family background. And of course, she recited a poem. So permit me, apart from being a queen, she's also a poet. Let's put our hands together for her, please. We are grateful. Your Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, also in the hall, we said we promised to acknowledge other groups and personalities. We have Urobo College, Urobo Model College. Let's put our hands together for them. Up you say. Also, Battery Women Association, we welcome you. Let's put our hands together for them. Your Majesties, like we said earlier, we work with evidence and facts. This great body, the Patriots, they also went to visit His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the hardworking president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we have a short video, Your Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to show how they went, what they discussed. They came back victorious. So please, the engineer, please, may we watch the video shortly. Thank you, Your Majesties.
President Bola Tinubu has received the Patriots, a group of eminent Nigerians, and emphasized that retooling the economy for sustainable growth and development is a major priority of his administration. The president also assured the group that their request for the convening of a National Constituent Assembly will be, with the mandate to draft a new constitution, will be reviewed. President Bola Tinubu made the declaration when he received members of the group led by the former Commonwealth Secretary General Emeka Anyaoku at State House.
And the deliberations of the Constituent Assembly should take into full account the 1960 and 63 constitutions, as well as the recommendations of the 2014 National Conference, and indeed of the various other national conferences that considered the Nigerian Constitution.
I'm still
preoccupied with thinking and tinkering with the economic reform. That's my first priority. Once I get that reform in place as soon as possible, then I look at other options. The option of constitutional review, as recommended by you, and other options of learned minds in this country should take into account the need for our nation to make progress.
Thank you very much, Your Majesties. Please move hands together for this great body, the Patriots. That is to show how far we are going. Also in our midst, we have Southern Women Empowerment Forum, Delta State Chapter, SWEF. Please, let's put hands together for them. We also have in our midst, Your Majesties, Chief Ambassador Dr. Johnson Anireto, the inaugural of Urobo lands. Let's put hands together for him, please. You're welcome. Your Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, resource persons, gentlemen of the press, we are progressing, if you ask me. On this note, please permit me to call on one of our leaders. I'm talking of Deacon Chris Yowaye, Chairman, South-South Advocacy and Mobilization Committee, to please come and give us his opening remarks. Let's put hands together for him, please. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, my MC. My Reverend Royal Majesties, religious leaders here present, elder statesmen, security personnel, distinguished members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, my fellow comrades, members of groups and civil society organizations, the physically challenged, men and women, and their respective leaders here present. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, today I feel expectantly excited and honored to have all of you here today in this historic gathering wherein we intend to rub minds and cross-pollinate ideas on how to get a workable and perhaps to an extent an agreeable constitution to our dear nation and our people. Permit me to say, as a proud Nigerian, everywhere and every time I see an American stand up to defend their constitution, I want to say, I want to stand in the same position to defend the constitution of my great country. In retrospect, you will recall that at the time of our collective challenge, some men of extreme goodwill and zest for the progress of our dear nation met, as you would have seen in that video, and founded an association of credible personalities, an eminent elder statesmen named the Patriots. an assemblage of men and women, not only of valor, but indeed of wisdom, knowledge, and divine experience about handling the affairs of men of their nations like ours. They have remained united to date with commendable admiration, impeccable integrity, and unblemished in conduct, as well as transparently apolitical in all their affairs. My people, it will impress you to note that this esteemed body of patrons have set forth a national summit in Abuja in the month of July, where discussions from this event and other states will be synchronized and aggregated into one document to be presented to the President and the National Assembly as reflective of our views and as a workable and living document to serve as the foundation and guide of our constitutional democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, as chairman by election of grace of the South-South Advocacy and Mobilization Committee of the national body of the Patriots, we have, as you can see in that video, been mandated to set up a sensitization pre-national summit of this nature that you can see today in all states of Nigeria to ruminate and come up with suggestions and recommendations on specifics for a working constitution to govern the affairs of the people of our dear nation. That is indeed the sole agenda of this eventful gathering of today, as it pleases the Lord Almighty. Ladies and gentlemen, this impressive audience was selected from an array of interest groups. We ensure that everybody is covered and carried along. Elder statesmen, traditional rulers, religious leaders, women, comrades, the physically challenged persons, lawyers, doctors, security personnel, and indeed a wide range of assorted stakeholders from the 3 senatorial zones of our dear state. This painstaking approach is to enable us to gather and to garner as much as possible a cosmopolitan spread of ideas and impact from all and sundry in order to deliver comprehensively on our challenges of constitutional reforms. As we all know and observe, it is an axiomatic fact that our dear nation has been battling issues that touch on our collective existence and has therefore led to the justified clamor for the groundswell of calls for restructuring of our federation. Restructuring in the real sense of the word, meaning a total overhaul and reinventing of our new union to meet our unique diversity and ethnic aspirations. In the thoughts of the millennium thinker, Karl Marx, the economic power base shaping the society first before the ideals follow suit. Accordingly, our foray into unraveling a workable constitution for our dear nation is to first critically examine issues of revenue allocation and distribution between the 3 tiers of governance, including resource management or resource control, as it were, as well as tenets of true federalism. Ladies and gentlemen, as we intend to have a look at the federal component and structure of the nation and X-ray its scope to see if it fits the definition of a true federalism. Consequently, some of these questions we will ask ourselves. Is our constitution, is it working? Is our federation progressive? Is our constitutional democracy fledgling? These are the things we want to look at and to examine today. The above issues raised as questions are some and more of what we have to tackle today. And from our panelists that will soon be seated, and to you audience, after which we shall issue a communique reflecting our collective aspiration and decision on the matters deliberated upon here towards finding a workable constitution to govern our democracy. In this connection, after this opening address, we shall empanel the panelists, as it were, to kickstart the great debate today and take a position that reflects those of the people of Delta State within the South-South Advocacy and Mobilization Committee of the Patriots. To present at the great national summit that is coming up in Abuja in July as our position on the way forward towards enacting a workable constitution for the present generation and indeed those of the future. My great people of Delta and the South-South region, the oil and gas resources that has so far fed this nation, this entire country since independence in 1960, are vested by divine location in the South-South region. And as such, we must do more than necessary through constitutional engagements to seriously ensure that our interests are firmly protected and our region sufficiently compensated and recompensed through a robust derivation principle, as well as increase in opportunity for us to be elected into governance and also to be selected into government at the national level, as the case may be. Ladies and gentlemen, it is in that note that I respectfully welcome all and sundry to this pre-national summit, and also to formally declare the summit open to the glory of God Almighty, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. I wish us all the fruitful deliberation. Thank you, and God bless you all. People of Delta and the South-South, as hosts, we are well prepared, and I am convinced that the deliberations we are going to be having today will be robust, considering the array of individuals that are seated that want to do justice to this all-important discussion of having a people's constitution. To keep us comfortable, I have behind, time you feel comfortable, you want to refresh, there's tea served round the clock. And after, during the afternoon time, lunch will be served. Once again, I welcome you and God bless you.
You agree with me that he has charged up the hall. Let's put our hands together for him, please. This is just a tip of the iceberg. Your Majesties, permit me to bring to your esteemed notice that Deacon Chris Uyowaye is the chairman, Wellman Group. He also the chairman, Monarchy Center. This is where we are today. Let's put hands together for him. The chairman, Monarchy Apartment, and so many other subsidiaries. Let's appreciate him once more, please. He's a genuine gentleman. You hardly see him with a police escort. He moves alone. Thank you very much. Your Majesties, permit me to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Alfred Molade, former registrar of Nigerian Maritime University, Okerekoko, and member, PANDEF Board of Trustees. He's also immediate past secretary of PANDEF. We appreciate you, Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, also PANDEF patron is here with us, Chief Uminimini, the voice of Niger Delta. Let's put hands together for him, please. Your Majesties, invited guests, students, and gentlemen of the press, the most circulating holy book is the Holy Bible. And if you go to the book of Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 to 8, 7 says, time to talk. We've been talking, and talk is life. Permit me now to quick call on Professor Anthony Killer, the National Chairman, Advocacy Mobilization Committee of the Patriot, who is standing in the stead of His Excellency Emeka Anyagu, former Secretary General of Commonwealth Organization. Let's put our hands together for him, please. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your Majesties, eminent leaders of the Patriots, leaders of the South-South, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly delighted to be here today, and I shall commence my intervention with your permission to recognize our chief host, Deacon Christian Yaoye, for the beautiful job that they have done here today. Yes, this is a very good time to clap. I also recognize Mrs. Yahweh, who's here today, because what we have is a gathering of ideas, yes, but it has been made possible because of a sacrifice of finance, of time, and indeed an investment of passion to make such a beautiful outing. We're told in Lagos that worry does not come last. I think I can go back to say that today. Right? It is true. They don't like coming last. That makes a lot of sense. I bring greetings of the leader of the Patriot, Chief Emeka Anyagu, the Emeritus Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations, who has taken his time to work for a better Nigeria. The Patriot, has been said, is a selection of eminent Nigerians who have reached the peak of their careers in life, and most of which in a long time have been able to establish themselves as not only reliable, but independent and impactful in their society. Allow me at this point to recognize one of the very senior members of the Patriots. He's a Mr. a comrade, but I tease him as chief because he doesn't like to be called that. I put him in a bit of embarrassment. Our elder, Delio Jifo, who's right here. Good morning, sir. He doesn't look it, but anywhere he goes in this country, he's perhaps the oldest man in the room because he belongs to what I call the 8th floor. He's 80 years old. This is a good time to clap for him. And those who think they're older than him should meet him in the corner and show their birth certificates anywhere he goes to. Let me cite Chief Emeka Anyagu when he once said
that even if you put angels in charge of Nigeria with this kind of constitution, they will struggle and perhaps fail. That is the spirit that drives the patriots towards the need to seek and implement a new constitution for Nigeria. That need is a functional need because it shows that so far, not so great the way the constitution is working. The other need is really a symbolic need. When you have a country of over 200 million people, and we agree that what binds us together is the constitution, the German word, which is now become the normal word, is the ground norm, the basic thing, the foundation. That very important document, which is like the Bible to Christians and the Quran to Muslims, the Nigerian one starts with "we the people." The first three words is a lie. So when you put the lives of 200 million plus people together, and the first three words that bind them together is based on the lie, you can see that there's going to be a problem. To rectify that foundation of falsehood is one of the reasons why we've decided that instead of lying that we have a people's constitution, why not have a proper people's constitution? The other reason is that since that constitution, which is a product of a military decree, has been enacted in 1999, a lot has happened in this country. We now have experience as a republic, and we've seen some things that needs to be changed. I noticed that the South-South is very legitimately, understandably, and logically passionate about the issue of resources sharing. What the patriots have decided is that in the spirit of getting a true people's constitution, the best way to go about it is for the people to talk, deliberate, make considerations, and then come up with positions to say, this is what the people actually want. What we're doing today is part of that effort. The South-South stands out in terms of advocacy and mobilization. It must be said, actually, this must be said, that what we're doing today is what is going on around the country in view of the national summit that will come up in July this year. The South-South is doing the state ones, which is particularly impressive. I think we thought the South-South was catching up. Apparently, other people are soon going to be catching up with the South-South in this trend. The idea is that various parts of the country can come together as hubs, think together, and then come up with what are their interests, their concerns, and their aspirations. It is very important, though, for us to remember that as long as we're in this country, we are a part of it. And the way to deliberate is to think of something that will be fair. We should develop a way of thinking that to say that what we ask of other people, if they ask it of us, are we going to be fine with it? That is the principle of drawing an acceptable social contract for everybody. In political theory, we call it covering ourselves with a veil of ignorance. For us to decide that moving forward, this is what we're going to be doing. And in doing so, we have to think that what we ask for, what we ask others to give us, what we are prepared to give, if all of a sudden the tables are turned, will it be fair on us? I say this to call our thinking, because when we sit with other parts of the country, if we want results, we must learn not to go there to be confrontational or to fight people. If we do that, we're not going to get results. The spirit we need to learn to go with is that of fairness and that of being constructive. To say, let us look at the bare minimum we can agree with. And one of the best ways to do that is to think of restructuring the country in a way that will be fair for everybody. I have heard people say Restructuring means different to different people, or they don't know what that means. Allow me to say that is total nonsense. Restructuring means what it means. It means to reset, to reconfigure, to reshape a structure. We don't have to invent words. If we agree on the meaning of words, then we can work together. But there are some people who pretend as if they don't understand words because of the mischief of their heart. Those of us who want to be constructive will have to learn to accommodate the ignorant and the mischievous, and to keep enlightening, educating, and persuading. And that is the very delicate, historic, and passionate task of the committee that is organizing today's event. The Patriots Advocacy and Mobilization Committee has the very high task of enabling people to express their views, their concerns, their interests, and their aspiration, and then bringing together all these diverse voices to become something that can work for everybody. Thank you. It is along that line that what we're doing today, it is, yes, a voice of Delta State, a voice of the South-South, but we must ensure that it can also be a voice of Nigeria. Because, let me remind us again, there is no point in being right and being alone. Even when we're right, we must learn to work with other people. Because otherwise, then we have a desert, and they say no man is an island by itself. No matter how right we are, how rich we are, how resourceful we are, we need other people. If we have our oil and nobody wants it, what are we going to do with it? It is because other people need our oil that our oil has value. If we had food and nobody wants to eat it, or nobody wants to eat our food because we have fought them or scared them off, what value would that food be? This is a very beautiful hall. If this hall is decorated and ready for use, but nobody comes because the management has fought everybody, what value would the hall be? It is therefore very important that whilst we acknowledge our rights, remember our grievances, we must also have the spirit of construction that will allow everybody to work together. We must be visionary. We must be ready to express ourselves well. But above all, we must be able to construct. And with that, I say thank you very much, and I wish us a very happy and productive deliberation. Thank you.
Please, let's put our hands together for him beautifully. And most importantly, his intimidating height. Thank you very much. Oga no need ladder to fix him, Bob. Let's appreciate him, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Your Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, one of your sons, Honorable Chief Ife Uku, former chairman, Ukwe Local Government Council, is also here with us. Let's put our hands together for him, please. We welcome you. Your Majesties, invited guests, students, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the peak of today's summit. Permit me to call a mentor and role model, a moderator of this next session we are about to delve into, Dr. Akpomudaga Oje, to please come to the podium and do the needful as usual. Let's put our hands together for him, please. You're welcome, sir.
Distinguished and most esteemed Royal Majesties here present, once again, I adopt the protocols, subsequent and previous. We are now coming straight to the real action where we want to empanel the panels that will discuss on the issues of constitutional reform, the imperative of constitutional reform. We want to look at the possibilities, suggestions, ways and means, both from our royal fathers, who are, among them are very strong philosopher kings, which Plato referred to them as. Please, can we give our royal fathers a round of applause? Please. There are philosopher kings here with us. We want to empanel the panel, like I said. And we should also note, like what the last speaker presented, extempore. He didn't read from the paper, but he brought so much wealth of knowledge to us. It shows the caliber of the people we have in the South, that our own resources can be used to feed the entire nation, but we are removed from participating in it, and they give us a recompense, which they call 13% derivation, under the proviso to section 1622 of our Constitution. That section provides that in whatever revenue formula Nigeria used to share and allocate its funds, that a minimum of 13% must be set aside for the place where these natural resources are located. 13%. And the issue people don't understand is what is actually 13%. Let me show you that you don't really have 13%. 13%, first of all, the Supreme Court decided the boundaries of a littoral state, like Delta State. We have 75% onshore oil and gas and 25% offshore. Akwa Ibom was what hit. Akwa Ibom State has 99% offshore and 1% onshore. So, Obasanjo was being clever by half. He said, look, Ibori and Co. and Atta, Obong Victor Atta, to be specific, those two great men were clamoring for resource control. And now he wants to know the boundaries to pay 13%. Obasanjo was just being, clever. And he told Rotimi Williams to go to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court should decide where is the boundary of a littoral state, a state that has water, like Delta State. What they did was that the action was against the south littoral states that had water, Bayelsa, Rivers, Delta. But Rotimi Williams joined the northern states, which are landlocked, as defendants, because they will accept his claim. Since they don't have water, every argument from the federal government that the resources in the water belongs to the federal government will be accepted by the North. So he did a master stroke in the Supreme Court, because I was the secretary of the defense team at the Supreme Court. Now, when he filed the action, it was just against us. So the decision of the Supreme Court was that the boundary of a littoral state in Nigeria ends at the low water mark of the land surface. That is, any resource outside the low water mark into the continental shelf does not belong to 13% derivation. It belongs to the federation to share. Whereas the environmental hazards and degradation from deep offshore oil exploration comes to hit us. You must first be onshore before you go offshore. They cut us out, and that brought the agitation which we fought. And they now brought an abolition to restrict the judgment. They call it an abolition of dichotomy and reduced it to 200 meters depth isobath. It is still nothing, because from the remuneration tax and offshore revenue payments, the real dollars starts from 1,000 depth isobath. They stopped us at 200. The dollar payment starts from 1,000. Do you understand? So in other words, we don't have 13%. And then again, the money is sold, the crude oil is sold in dollars. But the payment is in naira. So, and the value of the payment is at the central bank rate, which is not the black market rate, the actual rate. So when they sell your crude in dollars, they come to the central bank, change the dollar according to the realistic amount, and they pay us 13%. It means you still don't have 13%. Then the worst part of it is what you call excess crude oil account. You know, the budget for now is $75 per barrel. At the time, in Yaradwa's time, with my Israel Majesty's here, His Royal Highness the Ovie of Ejere Kingdom, he was a forerunner with us in this struggle. At the time, in Yaradwa's time, our barrel of oil, the budget, we put it at $45. And one time it got to $134. So what government did was that he created an SS crude account, which Obasanjo did. The one for the budget, which is $45, he will pay 13% of $45 to us. The excess of only $100 is set to SS crude oil account. So you're not having 13%. Whereas the Constitution says all revenues, Section 162.10 describes it, any revenue howsoever described must first be paid into the federation account before 13% will come in. But the federal government does not do that. It pays 13% of the budget benchmark. 13 there. Then the balance, it takes to an SS crude oil account, which is now called the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Hope you are aware of that. There's the Sovereign Wealth Fund belongs to the whole nation. It's our oil money. It's our oil resources. We ought to have 13% of that Sovereign Wealth Fund, which now has hit close to 4 trillion. We are not part of it, 13%. So at the end of the day, if you look at the arithmetic, you are getting less than 10% as 13%. So, and the most important point you realize, 1960 Constitution, sections 134, and 1963 Constitution, section 140, provided for 50% mineral derivations to the region. Then you can see how it goes. It said for the purpose of calculating that 50%, the continental shelf, 200 nautical miles, shall be deemed to be part of that region. That's what our forefathers did, because they negotiated it. So the regions were richer than even the federal. But now, we cannot even go near the continental shelf anymore to calculate our 13% derivation. So we must be really updoing in ensuring that we get something from our resource. Oil is a wasting asset. If in this state we are producing, we can still be in this state of arrested development and pandemic poverty. Just imagine if the oil goes, how it will look like. Our parents have tried, our leaders have tried. It's now history has beckoned upon us to join forces through intellectual militancy to engage the Nigerian state constructively. Like Professor Dikanle said when we spoke at the Human Rights Law Lecture, that if we know we cannot make Nigeria better, then we should not bring children into a wicked country and a wicked nation. We all know we have to explain to God why we should do that, to punish children to come into this kind of country when we cannot fight to make it better. We must be conscious. We must stand up for our rights. We must try to change this constitution. It is what has held us down. And many laws have held us down. In land law, it is said that what belongs to the land, anything attached on top and beneath it, belongs to the land. It's expressed in the Latin word of quid plantata, solo sed it. It is only in Nigeria that Section 18 of the Interpretation Act has redefined that law to state that land means, Interpretation Act defines land as any surface, everything on top, but excluding mineral. That is your law in Nigeria, that land excludes mineral. And all over the world, both Roman law and English law, what is beneath the land belongs to the land. So you can understand when I told you why people perish for lack of knowledge is that the laws of our country have been used to hold us down. So as we stand, we're already bound. Our fathers were bound by it. God forbid our children be bound by this. We need to liberate ourselves. It is not political shouting. It is not newspaper, we agree. But the most important are the laws. There is an environmental pollution law, that safety standard law, that is supposed to protect us against pollution. But that law says it will not apply in the petroleum industry. Pollution, use of chemicals, excluded in the petroleum industry. So we can be polluted and chemicals used as long as it is done in the petroleum. The gas flaring you are seeing there, this is the only part of the world where we increase fine to punish us with gas flaring. The federal government just fines them. And that's all. It takes fine. What about these people that have been polluted? What about these people that they are killing their agriculture, their community, their people, their health? So I believe we must be ready to take this matter very seriously. And that's why I'm giving this pep talk, that it will either anoint you to make sure that you sit and pass this message around to your communities and to your people, especially our traditional rulers. You are the index of our people. You are the light of our people. God has given you that divinity to develop your community, especially those of us that are blessed with this resource. That you must make your people benefit from this resource before it leaves us. We fought for the PIA. Our man is here, Prince Macro. Please, let's give him a round of applause, please. This man has been fighting from TrumpCon till today. Before we got the 3% to be paid for development of those communities, it was not a joke. Our father may so rest in peace. And I know at this point in time I might say, with all the greatest respect, may we rise for a minute silence in memory of Chief Ike Clark. Please, it's worthy. Please. May the soul of our great father, a citizen of the world who fought for the people of the ethnic minorities of Nigeria, continue to rest in perfect peace in the presence of God Almighty, in Jesus' name. He was a great man. He worked with my father in 1964, and he showed that love to me. And if not for him, the little we are getting, we will not have gotten it. And I keep saying, Ike Clark died, and the state of emergency was declared. That is my own satirical expression. Ike Clark died, and a state of emergency was declared. We now have to rise up and fill the void. If one man cannot, we can collectively fill that void. According to Dede Mabiaku, in my book on the challenges of true federalism and resource control, he says, if you no talk for Nigeria, nothing will reach you. Nothing. You can look at Abuja. Abuja was built from our resources. Anytime you go to Abuja, you look at Abuja, it's your oil. It's your oil. That means this same oil can do this in your community. Please, Section 235 of the Petroleum Industry Act, we have entrenched 3% of the operational cost of oil companies. Our traditional rulers, please hold the PIA accountable, the trustees. There are a lot of funds now in the host communities. They have disbursed more than $188 billion and $60 million. We have been fighting that this thing should come to the host communities. This is the first law that has recognized directly from the federal to the host communities. It's a breakthrough for which we must give ourselves a round of applause. It's the same thing we are doing here on this constitution now, that our leadership has spoken, our prof has spoken, and the convener, our host today, has spoken. The eminent patrons, as you know, if it was a partisan political party or activity, I wouldn't have been here. Where you have people like Emeka Oyoko and my dad, contemporary chief, Rotimi Williams, Professor Nwabweze. These are men that are incorruptible and beyond the reach of bribery. They fight for the people's cause. So it's on that note I want to empanel the panel that will speak today on the issues of constitutional reforms. We want to get ideas, and please, audience participation is expected. Any question you can ask. We have every startup society here, students, disabled. If you cannot speak your Queen's English, speak any English you think you can. Any language we will hear and try to do what you want us to do. It's suggestions we are asking. Don't be intimidated. Come out freely. Think what you want to say, what you believe should be a constitution for Nigeria. That is why we are here. I would say ladies first, but they say it is men first to hell. Please, can we welcome my auntie? She worked with my father's firm as well. Our first, from our side, woman member of the House of Representatives, 1983, an established and accomplished lawyer, ageless beauty, and a living legend, Chief Oliver Princess Agbajo, please come up, Mom. You're welcome. Can we take her up here, please? Please, let's give her a round of applause. She's been very consistent in our struggle. And she was also a commissioner of information in Delta State. Please, she has contributed so much to our development. I would also, at this stage, usher in one of our great professors, a literary icon, a cerebral academic, using the tool of his literary prowess, like the likes of Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, J.P. Clark, and we lost to Walter Otiago Wago. Gentlemen, the social critic, ever writing writer, Professor Sonny Agwefeda from the Delta State University, the proficient professor, an advocate for the rights of the people, using our African literature in terms of satirical parody to the administration of governance, corruption, and bad leadership in Nigeria and the world. It's a first-class scholar, please. You're welcome. Another proponent and exponent in the justified struggle for resource control, the recognition of ethnic minorities in Nigeria, studied under the tutelage of our father, Chief Ike Clark, and also from the same extraction, the indefatigable and irrepressible comrade, Chief Mola the Sheriff is in the house, please. The suit he filed alongside our brother, asking for our governor to account for the monies accruing to our state local oil commission, shows the extent to which these people can follow the due process to advance the cause of our people. Please, can we give them a round of applause? It takes courage. Saving the best for last, like it is said. Another product of Chief Ike Clark, another product of the proclivity to ensure that our people get recompense for the contributions they have made to this great country. Another representative of our collective will to fight away from the shackles of tyranny and oppression is symbolized in another scholar and an advocate of the people's rights, Chief Dr. Ominimini Obiu is the public relations officer of the great PANDEF, and I'm working now in the National Assembly as a deputy chief of staff to the Senate President. We must give PANDEF a round of applause, please. Please, we'll give PANDEF, after we've done that to the patriots, PANDEF is trying a lot for us. They are upholding our fight for ethnic nationalities of the Niger Delta. And these are products of PANDEF. Our father is gone, but his works still speak. We are only to be remembered by the things we have done. Immortality is what we put in the sands of time. So once again, thank you very much, PANDEF. Thank you very much. This is the panel I'm going to moderate, and the issue to be discussed and pontificated upon are the necessity or imperative for constitutional reforms in Nigeria. I'm going to be taking them one by one on their views. We pick their brains, and those who want to ask questions and make contributions, you can jot them down, because we want to work with pragmatic speed, but at the same time maintaining a balance that understanding of what we are doing should be the uppermost. A philosopher once said that the noblest pleasure in reading is in the joy of understanding. Once you read and understand, you have joy. But if you read and you don't understand, you have pain. That's why you say book hard. So we want to try to break it down to a level where we should all understand ourselves. Like the book of Amos said, 3:3, can two walk unless they are agreed? So we have to be agreed there and here. So please, the panel is open. I'm going to start calling on them to speak on the issues. They will take the podium as I call on them. And please remember, any questions, any observation that you think could help us, and any clarity you need, you identify the speaker and the presenter, and also throw these questions to us. And we are not the center where you have a monopoly of knowledge. The knowledge is symbiotic. It's flowing from here and flowing from there. It's never flowing from one side. It's a two-way traffic. So contribute and lead us, add to value to what we are presenting. Thank you. Can we give the panelists a round of applause at least one more time? Distinguished lady and gentlemen, the issue we want to discuss is the need for constitutional reforms, need to amend the constitution and bring in new things that can hold us together and reflect a true democracy, also upholding federalism, fairness and equity in resource allocation and other issues. So we will look at the issue of resource allocation, resource management. You know what Nigeria has. In 1995, the Constitutional Conference of the Caribbean-wide carried out a geographical, demographic study, and it came out with a report that every state of the federation is blessed with one natural resource or the other. Every state has a natural resource that can bring commercial viability. Why are we so concentrated in the oil and gas of the people of the Niger Delta? And what do you think we can do about it to enable us have a fair share of what we produce? I would try to yield the floor first to Dr. Ominimini to please throw light on what you think will be this. Perhaps we'll do it at 15 minutes, please. Thank you very much. Please, can we make him welcome?
Your Royal Majesty, I am glad to see you here this morning because when our people gather without the blessing of His Royal Majesties, it shows that we do not have direction. That you are here in our midst this morning shows that what we are doing here is legitimate. So I say, may God bless you. Thank you for coming. I want to thank the organizer of this program, the Patriots. These are our fathers, our leaders, and this has come to show they are truly fathers. In fact, it is our prayer that may God continue to guide them. My father used to say when he was alive, that when you get to any community and you do not see people with gray hair, do not sleep in that community. In fact, our father, Emeka Yauko, and others, may God continue to protect them. We need them. We need their wisdom in this country. And the chief host, my brother, Professor Anthony Killer, in this part of the world, we call Killer Ogbu. So maybe before you leave Furute, you should ask of the meaning of Ogbu. And you have proven that you are actually a killer in the academic section. So may God continue to protect you. Having said this, I want to go into the issue why we are here. Nigeria started from somewhere, and we must go into a little history of this country called Nigeria. A lot of things are wrong with Nigeria, and therefore we need to correct them. The Yoruba man says, if you do not wish to part from a community, therefore you must put measures in place to ensure that that community is made better. And that is why we Nigerians, this is the only country we can truly call our own. We must, as a people, continue to advocate for the betterment of Nigeria. And the most vital document which binds all law together is the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is why we continue to pray for the patriots. Do we actually have a constitution? It is a question. I want to put on ground and on record that the 1999 Constitution, which is now referred to 1999 Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, did not emanate from the people. It was a document that was put in place by military order and handed over to this country as a constitution. It is not a people's constitution. And any constitution that did not emanate from the people cannot be called a constitution. 1999 Constitution, it is not a constitution from the people of Nigeria. And therefore, it is not a people's constitution. It was a military dictation to the people of this country. On that ground, everything, so many things about the 1999 Constitution must be amended. One, it states, we the people of Nigeria. That is false, a very big lie. We the people of Nigeria never met to draft and approved the 1999 Constitution. Therefore, what our forefathers negotiated for before the independence of this country is true federalism. Anything other than true federalism, therefore, does not represent Nigeria. Because those who fought for the independence of this country was made on the foundation of true federalism. Ability to control your resources and pay tax to the center. That is true federalism. Today, the federal government generates resources, generates money from our states, and give little to the states. You now have governors that are weak, that have been made lazy because of the 1999 Constitution. It must be amended. Every 4 weeks, governors and commissioner for finance move to Abuja. What do they go there to do? For fact. That is a shame. A country is not run on that lane. Any country that is run on that lane like Nigeria cannot develop. What should happen is that all the states should look for resources within their state, generate their revenue, and pay tax to the center. When oil was discovered in Oloibiri, the Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa wrote a letter to the Premier of the Eastern Region, thanking him, congratulating him, because additional source of revenue is being found in that region. So, the military changed everything about Nigeria. After the 1966 coup, when Aguiyi Ironsi took over, he abrogated the federal structure. And that is the beginning of the problem of Nigeria. So that constitution that says we are Federal Republic of Nigeria, in true practice, we are not a Federal Republic of Nigeria because there are no federating units. Therefore, I want to put on board that there must be federating units. And that federating unit should not be the states, the present states we have in Nigeria. Everywhere in this country is blessed. There's no part of Nigeria that is not blessed. In fact, South Africa is run on gold. It is gold extraction that controls South African economy. But today, the gold we have in Nigeria belongs to individual, belongs to family. However, your oil, your gas belongs to the entire Nigeria. The gold deposit we have in Zamfara is more than the gold deposit we have in South Africa. Do you have money being shared by the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission on a monthly basis from gold? The answer is no. Nigeria borrows money every year to even run the budget. Go and check. You will see money that has been borrowed by Tinubu administration since he came into office. Meanwhile, God has given us that money already in gold, in tea, in iron ore, in columbine. In fact, most of the markets in northern Nigeria that used to be markets for farm product, they have been converted to market for tin. At a time, President Buhari had to do what we call no-fly zone in some states in northern Nigeria. Many people did not understand why Buhari had to put no-fly zone in those areas. Why did he do that? He did that because foreign nationals, they fly private jet to Nigeria to lift gold on weekly basis. So what type of country are we? We have the military, we have the police, and we have immigration, but foreign nationals could come to Nigeria to lift our thing, to lift our gold on daily, on weekly basis. That tells you that our institutions are very, very weak. We have weak institutions and powerful individuals. In the developed countries, we have very strong institutions. But in Nigeria here, individuals are stronger than institutions. So you have today, in Nasarawa State, it is only one man that is mining gold in Nasarawa State. There is gold in Niger State. There is gold even in FCT. When you go to FCT, from that Kuje area, where you have Obasanjo farm, to Erufai farm, to the Aso Rock, down to Niger, straight to Zamfara, is what we call gold belt. And there is market in Abuja where people sell raw gold. The question is this: we have artisanal gold mining everywhere in northern Nigeria. A lot of poor individuals have died from those gold mining because sometimes those pits can collapse. The issue is that, why is it that Nigeria military deal with artisanal refinery in Niger Delta, but artisanal gold mining in northern Nigeria, they pay deaf ear to it? Something is wrong. So when my brother, Mudiaga Oje, a very sound lawyer, was saying that by Nigeria law, the land belongs to the state or the individual, but anything underneath belongs to the federal government. It is only in Niger Delta that anything underneath, such as mineral resources, such as gas, belong to the federal government. But in northern Nigeria, anything underneath the soil belongs to individual. Can we live in such a country? The answer is no. That is why we need constitutional amendment. Today, we have Kano State with 44 local governments. They tell you that they give you money in 30%, but when you calculate the money that is being given to the local governments in northern Nigeria, when you aggregate them together, only the money going to the local government, because they have high number of local government, put together is more than your 13%. So you can see that they say they give you 30%, but only money through local government, they have doubled what they give to you in southern Nigeria. So today, this country is not balanced. And when you have a country that is not balanced, what you are bound to have is what we call crisis. In development studies, we believe that crisis anywhere is crisis everywhere. The insecurity we have in northern Nigeria, from Boko Haram, from ISWAP, is already affecting you in southern Nigeria, because most of them, they have moved to southern Nigeria, create camps in your forest, and they are kidnapping our people every day. Most of the forests, winding up, so most of the forests you have in southern Nigeria is occupied by people who ran away, dissident from Boko Haram. And what they generate alone, daily, weekly basis, from what they get from kidnapping is more than a budget of a state in a year. That is why we need a constitutional amendment with respect to creation of local government. In fact, we need only 2 tiers of government. We do not need 3 tiers. Because the local government should be delisted from the constitution. Any state that wants to create local government should be created at the will of the state, and they should set up administration to run the local government. Today, you have 7 states in Northwest. In the East, you have 5 states. In South, you have 6 states. We need to have equality of states per geopolitical zone. It is a cheating for you to have 7 states in Northwest Nigeria and have 6 states in South Nigeria, the region that produces the money with which Nigeria runs today. And please don't be surprised. Let me now recommend to you that the 7 states in South geopolitical zone should be Urobo State. I give to you Urobo State. On this basis, for constitutional amendment, we do not need bicameral legislature. In fact, we need unicameral legislature. Only the number of House of Reps from Kano is almost equivalent to the number of House of Reps of Southeast geopolitical zone. Is that not a cheating? It is a cheating. We need unicameral legislature. In fact, we also need presidential zoning. There should be zoning of the office of the president to run between southern Nigeria and northern Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari did 8-year tenure, and some persons, after the completion of his tenure, some places also came from northern Nigeria to run from the presidency. That amounts to calling us, those from southern Nigeria, fools in our own country. That was why we supported President Tinubu to come to office in 2023. And in 2027, it will also be the turn of southern Nigeria. That is why there should be zoning in the constitution to run between the southern Nigeria and northern Nigeria. We also I've talked about resource control, and the political structure today in Nigeria is 40. If you want to contest for House of Assembly, for House of Rep, to buy expression of interest form and nomination form, you spend more than 20 million. Are you not aware? What is the minimum wage be? So, to buy a form as a civil servant, your 30 years salary cannot even carry.
Thank you very much for your contribution. We thank you very much. I know that if we yield the floor, that's why I started with you.
15 minutes is not enough to deal with this issue.
I know that. That is why.
Thank you very much. So therefore, there should be independent candidature. I don't want to be unruly. Thank you, and God bless you.
You are known to be a gentleman, intellectual otherwise. Thank you very much.
Please put your hands together for him.
Please. Ominimini is explosive, and everybody here is explosive. Everybody here. We know it is not enough time for you to deliver, but key points can be made within that particular time, especially considering your background as a very strong academic and a social advocate of the people. Whilst we were here, one of our mentors, a courageous judge, walked into our midst. Honorable Justice Anthony Agbovi is in this house. Please, can we give him a round of applause? He's one of our panelists for the second session, and we're happy to have you here, sir. Once again, can we give Dr. Ominimini a round of applause? You can hear him talking about revenue allocation, talking about the structure of the Constitution, and talking about 2 laws for the same people. The Niger Delta, what is beneath the land belongs to the federal government. In Zamfara, the gold that is under their land belongs to them. These are issues that he has raised in a very clean way that we must also look at. And also, he used the word that it is a lie that we, the people of Nigeria, we never met. Chief Rotimi Williams has said that before, that the Constitution was a fraud. And the Constitution itself, if you see it in its original character, you will laugh at yourself that why am I a Nigerian? Because the document that wants to rule you is already starting with a falsehood. And it wants you people to be ruled by that falsehood. Because it says that the people of Nigeria had to meet true feelers. They say they sent out feelers and responses from Nigerians suggested we just wanted to amend the 1979 Constitution. He said that they set up a constitutional drafting committee headed by Nikki Toby, and the report from the field work was that we wanted a constitution just slightly like the 1979 Constitution. That was it. That was the basis upon which they now put that we, the people of Nigeria. If you look at the American Constitution, after they fought their war of independence and came together, the front of the American Constitution, a very small pamphlet, said, we, the people of America. So we just plagiarized the American Constitution and put it in our Constitution, not knowing that the American Constitution was negotiated like that of India. And even the Ghanaian Constitution of 1993, that one was done by a Constitutional Assembly, taken to a plebiscite and a referendum of the people who now approved it before it became the Ghanaian Constitution of 1993. And there's a fantastic section there, section 64, which gives every Ghanaian citizen a right to come to court and challenge the presidential election results. In Nigeria today, when you say one man, one vote, I've always told them that is a political slogan. It has no legal foundation at all. There's a judge here. You have no legal, one man, one vote does not operate in Nigeria. You don't have anything like that. Anybody tells you that is deceiving you as a matter of law. Because under section 137 of the Electoral Act, the only 2 people that can challenge the outcome of election is the political party or the candidate who contested. You who voted, you cannot. So all of us here, we cast our vote for a particular party, and our votes are given to another party. None of us can come to the court and say our votes were wrongly agreed. We must go through the political party or the candidate. And what if the candidate and the political party is settled? It means they have settled this, your one man, one vote. We'll be advocating that until I can protect my one vote, Nigeria electoral system is in the hands of tyranny. That is why Section 64 of the Ghanaian Constitution becomes very important. That any citizen, not even who voted, though, any citizen of Ghana can go and challenge the result of a presidential election. So these are the things that we need to have and be thought about. So I will call on my auntie to come up and explore ways for us on what she believes should be part of the constitutional reforms. Thank you very much. Can we give her a round of applause, please?
Okay, let me use this. Okay. My lords, spiritual and temporal, ladies and gentlemen, this our constitution is not working. No. We need to, in the words of Professor Killer, we need to restructure or reset this constitution. We need to know what we want. Is it a presidential or a parliamentary? What kind of constitution do we want? What kind of, for instance, a presidential system is a very expensive system. A country like Nigeria cannot afford it. It probably is better that we go back to parliamentary constitution, parliamentary government, where you have the constitution that can work for us. In a presidential system, the candidate needs to visit every state. But in a parliamentary system, you don't need to visit every state. You just go to your constituency, contest election, and you go to the parliament, and it's in the parliament that is where they choose the prime minister. So you don't need to come from Warri and you want to be a president, and then you go and contest in Sokoto. Is it not a cheaper system to have a parliamentary government? So that is there for consideration. The fact that presidential is expensive and corrupt. We need to, what is a constitution? A constitution is something that guides a country. For instance, if you do something that is good, you are rewarded. And if you do something that is bad, you are punished. But it's not like that in Nigeria, is it? So, thank you for answering me. So, we need to practice, find a place where we can, a constitution that can make us practice accountability. And then coming to resource allocation, resource control, resource allocation, and all that, we need to take into consideration this oil-rich country, oil-rich state. We need to take into consideration derivation. How many of you here have oil well? Who own all the oil wells in Nigeria? So, what are we talking about? So, they gave me only 15 minutes, so let me just zero down on what I think we need to educate the men, especially all Nigerians, even some of the women don't know it. It's inclusion. In our constitution, we need to practice what you call inclusion. That what some people call gender balance. You see, I've heard it said that the development is sine qua non to democracy. And this gender balance is a key factor in development in the United Nations. So if you want to be considered a state, a country that is developed, you must include women. And we are not talking about equality. In fact, that name, that I don't use it because as a Christian, it makes me feel like God didn't create man and woman equal now. But it's part of the United Nations indices for development. And that is women empowerment, women balance, gender equity. It's all the same word. It's a sine qua non to democracy. So, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, we need to include women. In the United Nations, if you have 10 people here, at least 4 must be women. You have to consider that. But in Nigeria here, I'm sorry to say, we are just 5% of the inclusion thing is just 5%. What other African countries that are not giants of Africa, like Rwanda, South Africa, almost half of the women in Rwanda, half of the people in the parliament in Rwanda are women. How did they get there? We should go and study about it. There should be a committee or that will look into these things, find out how did they do it so that we can also do it, because it is important for development. So we have we have spoken about we are not here to to give scores to any government, but we are here to say what the truth is. After all, the patrons went to visit the president. We saw the video, and it's a good thing they did that, so that you will not think you are doing anything bad by saying the truth. Dr. Ominimini said they have been borrowing, they've borrowed this, they've borrowed that. We must also balance it with that they have paid off the loan to IMF fully. You see, when you do a thing like that, you not only commend the people who did it, but they are doing it because of accountability. It improves their reputation. So we must say that for this government. They've done some good things, but there's still hunger in the land. There's still inflation. I used to put a lot of dry fish in my edikaiko. When I'm cooking edikaiko, I used to put a lot of dry fish. But the dry fish that I used to buy for 2,000 is now 25,000. So there are still things to be done by the government to improve the lives of citizens. So part of what we need to get rid of in making a new constitution is corruption. Our institutions must be strong. Like INEC. Whoever is appointing the INEC chairman or the INEC officials has to be an independent body. So, do I still have? Okay. Thank you very much for listening to me. God bless you all.
Let's put our hands together for her once more. Thank you. Honorable Chief Barrister Oliver Agbajo.
Well, let's give her a round of applause, please. She made some points, very viable points, very subtle as usual. That's how she presents her case usually in court anyway when she was working with us. That's how my dad talks too. Subtle, but points are made. One is that about the parliamentary system and the presidential system of governance as to expensive nature and the costs. And the issue of corruption, how we can curb corruption through the instrumentality of these reforms. Now, the most important point you made was the last one, and that one formed the recommendation of the Ways Committee on Electoral Reforms. I don't know if you can remember that Yaradua set up a electoral committee on reforms. And if you read the book by Sule Lamido, who's been serialized, he said, and I quote him, the first council meeting they were to hold, Yaradua said that he was the elections that came and brought him in were the worst ever conducted under Nigerian history and was fraught with so much irregularities. He said he went to meet him before the Council of State meeting that, please, don't say this because you are a product of this electoral system that you are discrediting. He said the man did not take it off. He said, but he told the man that my own was credible if your own was not credible. And at the Council of State meeting, the man repeated it again in front of Obasanjo, who conducted the election that brought him in. And he said it was fraud. So in that light, he now set up the Ways Reform Committee to bring reforms of electoral nature. And what our mom has said was what he first put, that the chairman of INEC should be appointed by the NJC, an independent body. So what she has said now, please, those who are collating there, take note of that. That's part of one of our recommendations, that the people who appoint should not be the president of the country to appoint the chairman of an electoral body. It should be done by a neutral party and supported by the National Assembly. Please, we give her another round of applause for that information. I'll be coming in now to our comrade and brother, a distinguished scholar by right as well, the great comrade Sheriff Molade, to take the stage on his thoughts. Yes.
Well, good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to stand on the already established protocols. However, let me recognize our most respected royal fathers here. Thank you for coming. I think the issue has been dealt with. But however, it is important for us to note that a new constitution is highly required, highly needed. We cannot overemphasize the importance of a new constitution in this great country. Yes, the constitution we refer to as 1999 constitution as amended, we can tag it as a fraudulent constitution imposed on the people of Nigeria because, like as the opening paragraph will always state, we the people, despite the fact we're young, we're never told that Nigerians meant to draft a constitution for the next generation. So the constitution was imposed on Nigerians, and we believe in this country, so we'll continue to manage with that constitution. Therefore, at this point, a new constitution is highly needed. Now, in order for us to have a good constitution that will annex the opportunities of this great country, which is the most populous black nation in the world, over 250 million Nigerians, we need a constitution, a people-oriented constitution, inclusivity constitution, a workable and functional constitution that will be all-inclusive, that will give fairness and equity, and a balanced constitution that those from Sokoto down to those from Calabar, we know that, yes, I'm a true Nigerian. Those from Lagos to Delta, we strongly believe that, yes, we are Nigerians. Not a constitution that will segregate us. Not a constitution that will deprive some persons. Like we always note, for example, in some states, let me use one of the smallest representation states in Nigeria, like Bayelsa State. Bayelsa has 8 local government areas. That proves or lay the golden egg of this great country. But Kano has 44 local government areas. So when you talk about the fair distribution of resources, Kano has nothing to bring to the table. But Bayelsa, Delta, Akwa Ibom, and other states has a lot to bring to the table. But those from the north, like Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, they will go with a lot. But those of us who produce it has nothing to show for it. And will come back with little to manage, coupled with our terrain. So I felt that it is important for us to have a new constitution that will be people-oriented. One of the greatest challenges that confront us as a people, beyond even the constitution, there are some fundamental issues or fundamentals that we need to address. One is the issue of corruption. Corruption has eaten deep to the fabrics of all Nigerians. I don't want to just say just those in the office. It has eaten deep to the fabrics of all Nigerians. And that is why even our governors in our various states in the Niger Delta that administer the 13% for us can misappropriate, misapplied, and misallocate our little 13% that is allocated to us to develop our communities for their own personal use. So, if we must address, as we yearn for a new constitution, but these are underlying issues that we must address. Corruption must be addressed properly so that we don't continue to have or agitate for a new constitution. When you look at the other issue, I would also like us in this house and the nation to consider is environmental degradation. Niger Delta, as a result of the continuous oil exploration and exploitation activities, our environment has been bastardized. Our ecosystem has been eroded. Our traditional occupation of fishing and farming has been bastardized to the extent that we may not be able to, except a proper remediation activities is carried out. And sometimes, when you look at or you talk about environmental remediation, we often refer to Ogoni land. It's just that the people of Ogoni have been able to advance the agitation of their degradation to the national and international level. Even though there are other parts of Niger Delta that are more destroyed in the environment than the Ogoni land. But because the people of Ogoni could be able to put themselves together to agitate beyond our expectation. So, if we must address these issues, the Constitutional Review Committee must consider some of these fundamental areas. Another key things I want us to also look at is issue of insecurity. Insecurity has become a great challenge for us, irrespective of the region, but currently, particularly in the northwest and in the northern part of this country. But it is everywhere in this country. Insecurity. Our borders are very porous. A lot of people, some highly placed personalities, for their own benefit, are importing all sorts of weapons into this country, all in the name of defending their territories and defending their ethnic nationality. But if we have a strong nation, a strong society, I don't think we need to polarize our ethnicity or our environment, because insecurity is a great challenge in this country. Talk about resource control. Of course, this is an agitation that had been there for many years by our forefathers. And up to this moment, we are still talking about resource control. The constitutional review must consider a fair resource control for all, so that the issues can be addressed properly. A constitution that will give fairness, equity to the citizens of this country, because most of our citizens, most of the region, some region or some states, seems to be deprived to a great extent. So as a citizen, we want to believe that we have reached the edge of the cliff, and we must do everything humanly possible to have a constitution that will stand tall for us. At this point, in order to nip corruption, I will also suggest that if it is possible, let us run a single-term leadership of 6 years, because that will help us to nip the level of corruption in this country. Sometime, when we said you have opportunity for second term, you will agree with me that in first term, most of our political leaders behave as if the Messiah has arrived. The Messiah has arrived. But in a nutshell, that is a fraudulent approach. So if we have a single term of 6 years, I believe we can able to, and it will do better to manage the resources available. And in terms of appointing some chairmen for like EFCC, INEC, and any other national body or platform, the judiciary that's supposed to be the hope of the common man will no longer trust it. If not, we could have said the judiciary should be in a better position to recommend those chairmen for INEC, for EFCC, so that the issues of corruption can be dealt with. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, and God bless you.
Can we please give him...
Hello.
Can we please give him another round of applause? We are making good progress here. From the Collation Center, I can feel a lot of recommendations have been made. Thank you very much, brother, for that presentation. And he talked about the issue of abolishing corruption by way of a constitutional review. I recall that by section 15.5 of our constitution, it is written that the state, which is a nation, must abolish all forms of corruption. But there's a problem there. That section is the section which we call state policy directives. They are not enforceable. They are not enforceable. But the Supreme Court had to do something, because when the ICPC Act was passed to law by Obasanjo, the Ondo State government challenged it, that it was non-justiciable, meaning to say that provision of the Constitution was only a policy. It is for you to try to strive to ensure that you execute it. It is not binding on the state. So the Supreme Court now ruled ways that, look, those provisions, they are not binding on the state. However, if the federal government makes a law setting up a body that will carry out this activity in this place, it becomes binding in law. So one point we must note is that he has brought that position to us to know that now we have to make it binding. Even though the Supreme Court has said so, in our new constitution, let us put it where it will be binding on government to abolish all forms of corruption. It talked about degradation of the environment and Ogoni is where everybody runs to. Yes, because they had an advocate. The advocacy plan of the Ogoni people, they are small but highly educated. And Ken Sararua, our great scholar and human rights activist and environmentalist, fought on that level. So the advocacy and the template was international. And up till now, they are still negotiating, the federal government is still negotiating with them. So we recommend that standard and model to Delta State, which he complained that some areas are also devastated. You must advocate, like the Robo Voice says, if you don't fight your fight, who will fight it for you? So we thank you very much. And he talked about the issues of appointments and the judiciary. Yes, some people have even said the judiciary is no longer the last hope, but with due respect, the lost hope of the. And even Charlie Boy has told us that the last hope of the common man now is the common man. It is not even the judiciary. It's your common, it's your destiny. They are the last hope yourself. So with that, I want to call in the great professor to come on stage. And I hope we are having it good so far. Yes, remember I told you about audience participation. It is the audience that makes the participants perform. It's a symbiotic relationship. So thank you very much. Can we give a rousing welcome to Professor Sonny Aguefena on this issue? Thank you.
Our royal fathers, long may you live and long may you reign. I want to use this opportunity to thank members of the Patriots who have put this together. And I also thank members of the audience who took out their time to attend this ceremony. The American journalist Carl Mayer did author a book. He christened "This House Has Fallen." And the house he was referring to is the Nigerian house. The reasons are due to the collapse or the imminent collapse of that house have been well canvassed here. That the house is sitting on a faulty foundation. So we do not want that house to fall on us because that will be tragic. So I think that is why the Patriot is doing what it is doing today. We'll continue to debate, continue to dialogue, and of course enunciate ideas that will strengthen the foundation of that house so that we'll prove Carl Mayer wrong and all other pessimists that the Nigerian house will not fall. I invite all Nigerians to become incurable optimists. Chief Emeka Anyaku is well into his 80s. Before F.R.A. Williams, 90s, thank you, sir. Before F.R.A. Williams passed on, he was in his 80s. Our father, Chief E.K. Clark, was in his 90s. So if all of these old men, nonagenarian, could still believe in the Nigerian project, then the rest of us must tag along their dream and vision for the Nigerian project. That the Nigerian project must succeed. And I'm happy that all of us are here. Now, the birthing of Nigeria in the 50s up to 1960, our founding fathers, Obafemi Awolowo, the great thinker, Ahmadu Bello, the great teacher and leader, Nnamdi Azikiwe, the philosopher king, they saw that Nigeria was very diverse, Nigeria was very complex. As we speak, no sociologist or historian has been able to give us the definite number of ethnic nationalities and languages in Nigeria. They tell us there are more than 300 ethnic nationalities. There are more than 450 languages in Nigeria. Nigeria is diverse, ethno-religious and cultural diversity. Then our population and of course our size, landmass. How then do you govern a diverse nationality such as Nigeria? And what was the thinking of our founding fathers? Ahmadu Bello, Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe. They said we should not forget our differences. Because one of them said, let us forget our difference. They said, no, let us understand our differences. So how do we understand our differences? They embraced the concept of federalism, which had to do with what? Devolution of powers, devolution of responsibilities, decentralization of responsibilities. And they made the regions, which are now the states, the center that should drive development. That was what gave Nigeria its federal destiny. Now, having talked about how we got to that through our founding fathers, Ahmadu Bello, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Obafemi Awolowo, there is a historical side to it, which has to do with Nigeria's quest for constitutionalism and political order. It starts from that era of decolonization, and the first of such that recognized our federal destiny was the 1946 Constitution by Arthur Richards, which talked about quasi-federalism. Then the other one, 1951, 1954, 1959, all of them were anchored on our federal destiny. Then by 1960, the morning of independence, 1963, Republican Constitution, all of them identified that Nigeria's foundation must be built on federalism. Sadly, certain things happened. The First Republic collapsed in 1966. Now, we must make the point clear that federalism is not a magic wand. It is also not a silver bullet for all our problems. If it were so, the First Republic would not have collapsed. We should then ask ourselves, if federalism was so good, why did the First Republic collapse? The first reason why it collapsed was that our federalism violated federal engagement, that federal system, there should be no region or state that should be too big as to undermine the entire nation. Nigeria's federalism in the First Republic was, as described by Margaret Parham, the Oxford scholar on colonialism, that it was like a tripod that had 3 legs. One of them was too big. Immediately it gave way, the entire system collapsed. That was one. Then unhealthy ethnic competitiveness was another problem that led to the fall of our First Republic. Another factor has to do with seeing politics as domination and conquest. Those who sought to dip the Quran in the Atlantic Ocean contributed to the collapse of the First Republic and our federalism. If you remember, if you look at our history, there were ethnic tensions in the Middle Belt, the Tiv riots, the Western Region House of Assembly crisis. All of these were pointers that our federalism was shaky. And of course, the other sing-song, which has to do with corruption. These were the reasons why the First Republic failed. As a people, we ought to have learned from all of this. Now, the military came, and for 30 years, first instance 1966 to 1979, 13 years plus. Second instance 83 to 1999, cumulatively 30 years. That eroded whatever political culture, political education that we ought to have imbibed as a nation. That was the gap. So that 30 years is not a small time in the affairs of a nation. Nigeria is just 65. And of the 65 years, we are 64 plus. 30 years went to military interregnum. That is why we are where we are today. And we must think of something anew. At this point, we should begin to think about the citizen and the Nigerian state. The citizens must now begin to interrogate the purpose of the Nigerian state. The purpose of government everywhere, Nigerian state not an exception, is the welfare and security of the people. Has the Nigerian state given that to the people? The answer is a loud no. The people also owe the state a responsibility. The people should interrogate the state. The people should contribute what they can contribute to the making of the state. And that is where we need a new constitution. A people-authored, people-centric constitution. The people must own the state. By so doing, the people must own the Constitution. That's why I'm delighted that we have people from all walks of life in this hall today. Even more delighted that we have secondary school students in this hall today. That should tell us that there is hope. There is hope for Nigeria. So the office of the citizen must take its rightful position. Now, talking about federalism, what should we do? What would we look out for? We must begin to develop strong political culture. We must begin to look forward to electing capable leaders. You don't find them anymore. Nnamdi Azikiwe, philosopher king. Obafemi Awolowo, lawyer, journalist. Amadu Bello, teacher, leader. Osagifo Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Inyeyere of Tanzania, that's the Nwalimu, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, Dauda Jawara of Gambia, Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia. You don't find them anymore. But we still have people like that in this country. We have Dr. Akpo Mudiaga Oje in this hall. We have Professor Ezekiel Agbalagba in this hall. We have Dr. Ominimini. They are still all over. But we have not mustered that strategy to elect these people. So we need capable leaders. That democratic culture. Then the people must also develop that will and commitment to nationhood. These are the things we should begin to look for. Now, the need for a new constitution. The 1999 constitution, all of us have carpeted it here. F.R.A. Williams, Frederick Rodimi Alade Williams, described it as a document that tells a lie about itself. We've all quoted the first line, with the people of Nigeria. He said it was a lie because that content was put together in less than 2 months. Justice Nikki Toby's committee. Then it was submitted to the Provisional Ruling Council, made up of 24 members. As at then, Nigeria had 36 states. So that document, that constitution was not representative enough. 24 members. Of those members, none of them was less than 40. Of those members, none of them was a woman. Among those members, none of them was more than 55 years of age. That is what is now called Federal Republic of Nigeria's Constitution, 1999. It does not reflect Nigeria. We are talking about a nation of 200 and something million people. A nation with over 300 ethnic nationalities, ethno-religious and cultural diversity, landmass. Just 24 men in PRC looked at that constitution. No, we need a new constitution. And in our quest for a new constitution that is truly federal, we do not need to look too far. That constitution should be modeled after the 1963 constitution. That is about the best so far that Nigeria has had as a federal constitution. We also do not need to go too far. The Confab of 2014 has a ready-made document that Nigeria can work with. All we need to do is to get jurists and scholars to come up with a white paper. Get a constituent assembly to look at it, and then organize a nationwide referendum that will reflect the spirit and temper of the Nigerian people. That is where we should go. When the screen showed Chief Emeka Anyanku and he was talking, I just felt, Sonny, you have nothing to say here today. But of course, I've been called upon, and Sonny must talk. So there are a lot of things we need to look forward to. We need state police in the new constitution. Look at what is going on. Just yesterday, 23 people were killed in Benue State. Some were killed in Zamfara. So if we actually have state police, no governor, no chief executive worth his salt will allow his or her state to be so invaded. We must, I know all of these are contained in that document, a new revenue allocation and resource management. I am advisedly avoiding using the expression resource control. So people are not comfortable with that idea of resource control. I would not talk about revenue allocation and resource management. And we should take our time to to enlighten our brothers in a particular section of the country. They think resource control will deprive them of revenue. No. Let us remind them that once upon a time, northern Nigeria had the biggest textile factory in all of Africa. And it was the biggest employer of labor in all of Africa. It was built by Ahmadu Bello from cotton, from agriculture. When Nigeria ran a federal system, the 3 or later 4 regions developed at great pace. Whatever you had in the north, you had in the west, you had in the east. There was Liberty Stadium, the first of its kind in Africa. There was one in the east, there was one in Kaduna. You had Cocoa House in Ibadan. You had this equivalent, Presidential Hotel in Enugu. You had Hamdallah Hotel in Kaduna. Ahmadu Bello University, Ife, Unsuka, all of these were evidence of what? Development. And Nigeria was at par with Japan because we got it right at the beginning. So many of the states we think are resource famished. They are actually resource rich. Lithium, iron, just think about it. Nasarawa State, Nasarawa, Kaduna, Katsina, Kano, in between them have over 20 mineral resources. Look at Ondo State. You think Ondo State has nothing? No. Ondo State has the highest concentration of bitumen anywhere in the world after Venezuela. Venezuela is number 1, but Ondo State has the highest concentration of bitumen. All of this, we should let them know that they should not be afraid. It will make them creative, it will make them resourceful, and it will make the states centers or hubs of development. And it will bring development and prosperity to the people. There's so much one needs to talk about, but you do not tell the story of a lifetime in one day. If we do this and many more, our royal fathers, ladies, and gentlemen, God shall then build for us a nation where no man is oppressed, and we shall live in peace and plenty. Thank you.
Please, let's put our hands together for him. While I was coming to pace him, for him to round off, I noticed that Urobo College students and Dossi College students, they were beckoning on me to hold on. That is to say, he actually lectured us. Thank you very much. My father, a retired college principal, said, and I quote, "If you think education is expensive, then try literacy." End of quote. Thank you very much. Let's appreciate him once more, please. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can see the outcome and the nature, as well as the impact from our panelists and our resource persons. Can we please give ourselves a round of applause? Thank you very much. He made mention of the quasi-federal structure of Nigeria from 1946 in the Richard's Constitution, Macpherson Constitution, and Littleton Constitution. And he told us of how unhealthy rivalry and ethnic tensions and bigotry, if not the conquest, those who said they would dip the Quran in the sea, affected the federalism and the practice we had early in our colonial and post-colonial era. And he also talked about 30 years of military rule. There was one book, 13 Years of Military Rule, at the time. Yes, and he talked about 30 years of military rule. That is another part of our responsible for our stagnation in federalism. They were basically unitary, and they transported this unitarianism into the Constitution. That is the problem we are facing. It's the unitary Constitution of Decree 34 of 1966 that is masquerading as a 1999 Constitution. And if you look at it, that's why I say we should be ashamed of our Constitution. The Constitution is a decree that decreed democracy to us. A decree, that decreed it, because it says that the federal military governor hereby promulgates democracy to us. And it now tells a story that when you want to print the Constitution, if you remove the decree 23 that brought it into force, the Constitution will still remain valid. That is why when you buy your Constitution, they don't show you the decree that gave the Constitution life. But we know that it is just being clever by half. It's a decree that gave you democracy. That should be able to tell you how we need to change this document urgently. And also, these 30 years of military rule, we might not just blame the military. Some were true misrule, actually, by the political class that brought in these people. I remember Danjuma in 1983 after the coup of Buhari. He said when he heard that the 1983 election was a landslide, he knew it would be followed by a gunslide. And that is it. So the politicians and those who operate our documents must also try to do their best to enable us be cocooned against military rule. With that, please, we want to wind down the first session and immediately commence the second session so that we can have the interactive. And we can refresh ourselves more. And remember, please, that everything you have heard, what you disagree with, or what you agree with, or better still, what you can improve upon is welcome. We are collating ideas, like we're saying. We have great people out there, and we have people here. So we are joining forces, as it were. Don't ever feel intimidated. Don't ever feel, you don't have what to give. Give everything you have now, because this thing is going to be documented. You saw our secretary speak. You saw the professor speak. You saw the host speak. And our traditional rulers are going to speak also during the interactive session. We are collating everything to put forward for posterity. If they don't implement it, at least God has granted us amnesty against liturgy, for not taking action. So please, let's give ourselves a round of applause as we wind down this panel and bring the second one almost immediately. Thank you very much.
Hello. Please, may we put our hands together for them? Put your hands together for them. Put your hands together for them as they step out of the stage. Put your hands together. Put your hands together for them. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our revered traditional rulers, our fathers, with your kind permission, I want to proceed to empanel the second panel. Can we again please give a round of applause to the panel? The first panel for doing a good job. I will start the second panel by inviting His Lordship, our highly cerebral, distinguished Honorable Justice Anthony Akpovi from the judicial pedigree. Gentlemen, can we give our justice a round of applause? If you don't know, his father was the chief judge of our great state, and also every member of his family is a lawyer. Can we please give him a round of applause? I'm calling on the BOT member of the Pandef, my very great brother, Alfred Molade. Please give him a round of applause. Our distinguished prince, I hope you are here. Makbobi Okareme. It appears. Are you here? He was here a minute ago. Can somebody locate him for us? Can you locate him for us? Okay, we will step him down. He's coming. He went to get something. And indeed, we saved the best for last. Our youthful professor, our vice chancellor, our newly inaugurated and appointed vice chancellor of our grateful pray. Can we welcome Professor Ezekiel Agbalagba, please? A researcher, a scholar par excellence. Our Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Petroleum Resources. We'll give him a round of applause. You know, it was a battle before we got this university inaugurated. It was a battle. So we congratulate ourselves, our traditional rulers especially, who fought, and the then senator, I think it was Ovio Magege. Fred Brume. No, it started from Fred Brume. Okay, sir. Yes, it was Fred Brume. Yes, it is true. It is true. Please give our Royal Majesty a round of applause. He's an embodiment of knowledge and a doctor. A doctor. Please, that's why we brought them in. They were selected, especially our Royal Fathers, to come and guide us, both traditionally and through divination, and also with the intellectual powerhouse that they have here. We have lawyers, we have doctors, we have great men. That is what we call them, philosopher kings. So the time of the era of those kingship have gone. Now they are even more knowledgeable than you. And that is why they rule over you by God's grace. So gentlemen, we want to start the second session. And we are looking at the issues of accountability in the democratic system. The issue of accountability to the people who elected you, and also to yourself, to make your nation great. So we're also talking about having an inclusive government. Government that carries out the happiness of the greatest number. The man who founded my school, the London School of Economics and Political Science, Jeremy Bentham, his theory was the happiness of the greatest number, which we put in our constitution, but we refuse to put it as a binding part of the constitution. That is why the American Constitution in its preamble said, amongst other things, that the people of America have come together to make a government that ensures happiness, the pursuit of happiness. That is why America is great. It's a right to pursue happiness in America. So, once again, we're talking about inclusive governance, and democratic accountability. The prince is back, so please make welcome our prince, Mark Pope Okereme, pioneer, Trumpcom National Secretary, Pandem Chairman, Delta State, and indeed the liaison of Pandem to the National Assembly. He has been very consistent. Gentlemen, you are welcome to this session. This is working. Gentlemen, you are welcome to this session. And from what we are going to say today, the topic for discussion or the theme for presentation is having inclusive governance and democratic responsibility, which is talking about accountability, is talking about including ethnic groups and their people in governance. What do you think should be one of the best ways, means by which government can achieve this inclusion of us into governance, and also people to be responsible? Democracy. You voted somebody in, he has a duty, because you now have a social contract with him, to deliver on his manifesto on the things he canvassed during the elections, which made you to vote for him. So we want to see how we can hold them accountable for those elections and those the manifestos which they profess that indeed made you to vote them into government, and also opening the space of governance. My great brother, Molade Alfred, a board member of Pandef, former registrar. I want you to throw light, 10 minutes, if you can, on this issue.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to appreciate the presence of the highly revered traditional rulers here. Your coming here has added color to this conversation. Talking about inclusiveness, what we mean by that? We mean that every segment of the society has to get involved in what you do. In this context that we are discussing here, it is very important that if we must achieve constitutional review or constitutional amendment or a new constitution or talking about democracy itself and the politics itself, there has to be inclusiveness in what we do. For instance, in every democracy, you talk about human beings. And those people originate from communities. We know in every political setting, politicians will move around in terms of campaign and consultations. And the first port of official call, which all of us know, are the traditional rulers. They will pay respects to them as they should, promise heaven and earth, and then the followers will also be clapping and singing and dancing. Thereafter, everything ends there. So the input of traditional institution is not factored into what happens thereafter. And that is where we talk about issues of security. Because when those who are supposed to be involved at the local level are not properly factored in what you do, they have very little power to influence anything. And these are the same people that are going to play the same politics, and these are the same people that are going to influence the political equation in what we are talking about. So it must be very, very important, and it's something that is very vital, that the traditional institution must be factored into the political system. And that's where some of us are arguing in every forum we find ourselves that the traditional institution should be given a role in the constitution. They must have a role defined for them in the constitution, because there's nothing you do that you run away from them. For example, we're talking about security. If the security system is not well calibrated, you can do very little, because the politicians, once they get into office, and the youths and those who are playing the politics are there, and they have nobody to be accountable to. Anybody that comes to them are either followers or whatever, who are going there for one thing or the other. They are not accountable to anybody. And the traditional rulers, in most cases, cannot even call these politicians accountable. So you see everybody doing whatever they like. But if they have a role, and those roles are played at the beginning, everybody will know that, yes, this is an institution, and we must make sure we respect what they do. And those people that are also playing the people who are the politicians will also know that they are accountable to people. In terms of security that we're talking about, we have been agitating for state police and community policing. For me as a person, without missing words, in our communities, state community policing is already in place. It's already in place. Because when you go to the communities, you have the vigilante. Those are community folks that are more reliable than even the official police that we have. They are more reliable. A few weeks ago, I had cause to call one of the traditional rulers here because I was faced with some security issues. I had access to the police hierarchy in the state, but I felt more comfortable because those guys that brought the matter to me also felt more comfortable discussing with traditional ruler. And I reached out to one of them, and he was able to wade into the matter. And the matter is already being resolved. That's to tell you the power of traditional rulers and traditional institutions. Because once we lose it, we miss it. If we lost it, we miss it. Then, talking about how to be inclusive in our political system, the politicians, once they gain office, they must also remember that they are being in office is to hold the resources of the state in trust for the masses. Whether you are from party A, you are from party B, or you are from party C, or you are from party D, or even if you are an independent candidate. For instance, if you have an independent candidacy. A situation where politicians will go into office, and once they win, every other person will go to blazes. Even within the party, they also have caucus. But those things are not good enough for the political development of our country. So once we do that, that brings the concept of do or die. If I don't get it, I die. If I don't get it, let me die. Just like the Bible will say, if I perish, I perish. Because if I don't get it, nobody will look at my face. That is an aspect. Then another aspect we must also look at, which may not be captured here or may, but let me just mention it because I've noted it. And it is very, very important because I come from an environment in academics. We have a system in academics where we have federal structure, we have state structure, we have federal institution, we have state institution. Sometimes I ask myself, do we really have federal institution? As the case may be. I ask myself sometimes because I am from federal and I work for state. Because at the end of the day, the burden is levied on the state. That's where you have state institutions being established. And the same state institutions will go cap in hand, meeting the governors and the politicians in the state to say, help us, we need this and we need that. And then you also have the police, the security agencies. These are federal structures. These are federal agencies. But you also see them going around to meet the state governors, where state governors will be buying vans, buying security equipment for them, providing infrastructure for them, building barracks, building offices, and all of those platforms and all that. So that's where we have the mind, I have the mind, a very strong mind at that there is need for us to rejig the system and for us to really be inclusive and respect ourselves in what we do. There must be a way where you know your boundary, I know my boundary. For instance, there was the quotation that was made by two leaders of this country. One was Azikiwe, one was Aminu Kano. One of them said, let us forget our differences. The other one said, no, let's understand our differences so that we'll now know how to reason and live together very well. And I agree with the latter. Because if you understand your boundaries, if you understand your differences, you can work better. Talking about inclusiveness again is very wide because that is key in politics. It's key to everything we are discussing here. For instance, look at what we are talking about now. Patriots, the eminent patriots, have conceived this beautiful idea because they want this whole idea to be carried out in an inclusive. They decided to bring in credible stakeholders. The traditional rulers are here, PANDEF is here, all other groups are here, and my dear brother, Professor Killer and his group, they are here providing useful information and direction to what we are doing. That is an example of being inclusive. Now, at the end of what we are doing, the result that is going to be captured here is a result which should be owned by everybody. All of us will own it. So inclusiveness is very important in politics, in driving our economy, in driving our religion, in driving our institutions, in driving everything that we are doing here. In fact, that is what should take us to the next level we are about to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Like I said, if we are to flag these issues, we'll bust it all through the day. And we'll give him another round of applause. He's talked about bringing the traditional institution. And I've had cause to say that in a presentation I made some years back at the instance of the state, the office of the deputy governor, late Professor Twama. We made the point that we should just give them so that they could have something that can protect them from violations rather than just giving them rules, regulation, and practices. Something should cocoon them from government interference, both in terms of administration and even remuneration, welfare, just the way you do the civil service. We can also do that for them. Thank you very much. I'll be proceeding to our distinguished Vice Chancellor, who is here with us and has been here with us for a long time. Can you please give him a round of applause? He's an inventor, a researcher par excellence.
No.
He wants to throw light on this issue of inclusiveness and democratic responsibility. Thank you very much. You know he's used to academics. He wants to stand up and make his presentation. Anyhow you make it, it's okay. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, moderator. Our royal fathers, our very revered high chiefs here. I want to appreciate the organizer, the Patriots, for putting together this great summit. I just want to start by saying one single thing, that there cannot be inclusive governance and democratic accountability in the current constitution we are operating. That must be stated very clear. Moving forward, let us look at the two terms we are talking about. Inclusive governance. It means citizen participation in electing who governs them and taking decision. But what we have today is not so because of the faulty nature of the Constitution. I can tell you for free that we have electoral acts that can be jettisoned at any given time when the need arises. That means I can do anything to take myself to power and I become a leader, not a true representative of the people. So if we need real inclusive governance, we must have citizen participation. And that is why we must look back to the Constitution and also the electoral reform. Secondly, if we need a true governance or inclusive governance, there must be representation. Today, any person that gets itself to power feel he can buy anybody. He can allocate the wealth or the resources of the nation or the state to his own constituency and buy few persons, and he can get his way back to power again. Which means we don't have true representation, and therefore inclusive governance is not practiced in Nigeria today. How do we do that? If we have a constitution that works and governance define or specify how resources are allocated, how resources are shared, then we have strong institutions that regulate the policies and the activities of those who are governing us. We don't need to cry or we don't need to make noise for the resources to be allocated appropriately. Then accessibility. Because there is no true inclusive governance, we see that we cannot access those who we let to lead us or who fight themselves to power to lead us. They are not accessible. In a true democratic setting, leaders are accessible. They will come to you. We have had so many stories in Nigeria, tragedy happening, but even the governor, the president will not even go and visit those people. Will not go and have on the spot assessment what happened, and it's not consigned. You hear 100 persons dying and the leader is traveling for a party. It tells you that we are not practicing a inclusive governance because it doesn't care. And transparency, we have been operating an opaque constitution that only security vote is almost 40% of the total budget of a state. How can we get inclusive governance in such a situation? Security vote alone, and nobody questions. Anytime you try to question, to probe how the wealth, the common wealth is shared or allocated, you are seen as an antagonist, like our brother did some time ago, taking the government to account how the money is being utilized. Then democratic accountability. If we want to be accountable, there must be free and fair election and bring people to power. if we operate a free, fair election where I will not rescue or snag ballot box to get to power, then if I need to represent the people, to have an accountable government, I will go to the people, I will give them my manifesto. They will look at my vision, my mission of seeking their vote, and they will elect me. But today that is not so, because we are not running a government that is human objective that can move us forward. So in doing that, I would say that people who have their way to power must also respect God and our institution and look back and be accountable to them by way of true representation, coming back to have a feedback, not saying I stay in Abuja, anytime I can get my ticket back, I go. That is not what true representation is. Why things are getting bad in this order is because of the processes. Processes are getting bad. In 1999 election, we said a little bit fair because people just want democracy. But as at 2003, we knew that in this state, I didn't vote. Many didn't vote, but there were results. These have degenerated over time. And I tell you, because to some extent we participate in electoral processes these days as teachers and lecturers. You see that technology has bastardized it. That I can sit at the comfort of my home and get vote. It's worse than snatching of ballot box now. If a technologist can tell you better, I don't need to say that here, that result can be manipulated online and given as a result to being the representation of the vote of those people. That is not a democracy. So if we must practice a true democracy, that we have inclusive governance, that we have accountability, there should be total reform. And how can we do that? We need to go back to what Patriot is saying. Let us have a summit that will bring us together. How do we allocate resources? How do we govern ourselves? How do we make things work? You see, when we move in the same circle, it is going to be difficult for us to make progress. When you benefit today, you say the system is working. When you don't benefit today, you make the loudest noise. One man was telling me that the higher the noise, the noise you make is directly proportional to the distance you have from government. As you get closer to government, your noise gets smaller, and at times your mouth is closed. That tells you the kind of democracy we are practicing, and we cannot get inclusive governance and democratic accountability in such a situation. The only thing I need to advocate at this point in time is that we have had different constitutions. Some of them didn't work because of faulty implementation. But the closest reform we have talked about in terms of constitutional amendment is the COFAB of 2014. We may agitate for oil, total revenue resource control, and the rest. Other people will agitate for things that matters to them. We have agitated that, we should create more states so that we can have an equitable number of states in all the regions. Good. But there comes a time, and there was a time, where the whole country agreed to sit together in one roof. And they deliberated on how we can move this country forward. And they took over a month plus to say this, and this should be done. And they agreed at that point. COFAB 2014 was that convocation of Nigerian, where we said, let us have a constitution that it should work. And they come to a compromise. At all regions, we're able to say this should work. I want to conclude by saying that if we must make progress, as the Patriot looking at the National Summit, they should also take a copy of this COFAB report so that they will look at it critically. Where they don't get it right, they should be able to make an amendment and dust that to become the Nigerian constitution we are all claiming for. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Let's give our great prof and Vinci a round of applause.
Wow. We can see that the nature of his profession is very versatile and has come to our territory to drop on us suggestions on how we can have democratic responsibility, and is hinging it on free and fair elections. That if we have free and fair elections, then we have people who will be responsible to us. And he talks about the 1999 Constitution as amended, as hopelessly not able, regrettably, to grant us that platform. And he has repeated what Professor Awefede has said, that we should look at the 2014 confab. In fact, his lordship was looking at me when he was saying that at the Human Rights Conference last week, when I was making my presentation, he asked me again that where is the copy of the 2014 confab? A lot of scholars have really asked for that document, and I want people to have a copy of it. Okay, we have it, and we will circulate it round. We say we have it. Please give them a round of applause, please. Please, they are working for us. Please give a leadership and professor a round of applause, because the document is the key. It's the key. We want to see what happened there, because our fathers were there, and people who spoke on our behalf were there, and decisions were taken, including a minority report by Honorable Douglas. So we can take from there and come in. And also, Gwefeda, I forgot by omission, who talked about the 1963 Constitution. I have the copy here, 1960 and 63 Constitution, that with me here. And we are also going to look at those constitutions, because they were very, very, equitable to nearly all the regions, which we can now make to states. In the exclusive legislative list of the 1960 and 63 constitutions, we had only 44 items upon which the federal government could legislate. And each of the regions had a right to enact their constitution, even up to 1964, from Midwest Constitution, after the plebiscite. So those are fantastic things. It was 1979 and 1999 that the exclusive legislative list was bloated to 68. Although they deleted item 48. 68, including public holiday. What's the National Assembly doing with public holiday for Nigeria? So these are part of the things we really need to look at. Once again, let's give him a round of applause. I will save the Lord for last, as I welcome the great Prince to please make his contribution. You want to stand up, or you want to make your... Okay, a lot of people are used to this presentation, because it makes you... get a lot of commanding. So please, let's welcome Prince Okereme to the podium. Thank you.
So first of all, Your Royal Majesties and Remain Loyal, sir. To everybody that is here, today's event is auspicious, because we are talking about a new Constitution. I'm sure majority of us are aware that the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum took the federal government to court to challenge the authenticity of the 1999 Constitution. The federal government knew that they had no defense, so they tried to rely on technicality by saying that we do not have locus. Fortunately, the Federal High Court ruled in our favor that we have locus to challenge the authenticity of the 1999 Constitution. So as of today, the matter is in the Court of Appeal. And we are hopeful that the Court of Appeal will give a proper interpretation of that first session, we the people of Nigeria. Because actually, we did not. That is why this gathering is important. Because assuming when the Court of Appeal now declare the 1999 Constitution, there will be a vacuum. But the conference that will be organized by the Patriot will immediately provide the void to now get a new constitution that will be in line with normal constitutional principles to be enacted for Nigeria. Having said that, Today, we are gathered here basically under the guidance of the Patriot, but with co-partnership of PANDEF. And PANDEF is the umbrella body of the Niger Delta. Today, we have limited the basic operation to the south-south. We have decided to exclude the other oil producing parts of the region that were associated with us before. Because the major issue that brings us together is the oil. And the south-south have almost 90% of the total oil production of Nigeria. Good. And we can up to 92. So we do not want a situation whereby the peripheral states that we try to carry along, we now want to flex muscle with us under the guise of equality of state. It has been very, very disgusting, and today we have decided to limit our basic operation and template to the south-south. That is how PANDEF is currently being operated. Having said that, during the introductory remarks of my brother, he made mention of the 30%. To him, he felt the actual amount is not being paid as of today. However, because of what we have done, we formally wrote the Minister of Finance, the Accountant General of the Federation, and the Revenue Commission. So they provided to us details of all revenue allocations for the period for which we sought for the clarification. That was how we were able to come across that specific figure of 1.3 trillion that was supposed to have accrued to Delta State for a certain period. Now, I am also asked to speak on the issue of accountability. As of today, we are still resolute in ensuring that there is proper accountability for what actually belongs to the people. So, for the few of you who, when you saw the picture of Prince Maipobe and the former governor of Delta State during the Thanksgiving service in Asaba, that now asserted that perhaps we have dropped the pursuit of accountability vis-a-vis the proper management and utilization of 30%, please let it be noted that we are still insisting for the proper utilization of the 30% for and by the people for whom that provision of derivation was made in the Constitution. It is on this basis I will now publicly remind His Excellency Governor Sheriff Oborowori to ensure the proper implementation of the Desopadec law that made very specific provision as to how the derivation funds should be used by and for the benefit of the people of the oil-producing communities. In order not to dilute my points, I want to stop here. Thank you.
Let's put our hands together for him once more, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Prince. He has said he had to pause in order not to dilute further presentations. We have to give him a round of applause for his consistency and his courage. He mentioned to you about the sum of 1.3 trillion naira. They went to court together with Sheriff Molade representing other people of goodwill in the state to challenge the former governor to account for 1.3 trillion that accrued to us over a particular period of time. They are asking. That's part of accountability. It's a risky business. It's men of courage. You need to have guts, stout guts, and courage to confront government. People say you don't fight two G's, God and government. But these people have taken the plight of our people to the court of law, which is the due process. And that is where they are. So people like this, we must encourage them that they are speaking on our behalf, those of us who are scared to come out. I recall we filed the suit that made the president to appoint a minister of petroleum resources in 2003. He's aware. I filed that suit. And Obasanjo on 15th of July 2006 appointed a minister, Edmond Dakoro. And right now, I'm in the Federal High Court, I'm in the State High Court, asking the court, Justice Iboje, to order that the federal government bring the 14 million pounds returned from Ibori by the United Kingdom to Nigeria, because that money belongs to Delta State. It is not to the federal government. So Akpo Mudiagaoje against the president is pending right now at the State High Court. And by God's grace, giving me life, we're going up to the Supreme Court, because the Attorney General has raised the issue of local standard. But that has been abolished on fundamental rights proceedings. And our case is better because Deraye, they seized 1.9 million pounds in United Kingdom. Obasanjo returned it to Plateau State. Alemesia, 1.1 million pounds in United Kingdom, and Chelsea Hotel were returned to Bayelsa State. And even now, Enugu State Governor, the FCC sent 144 properties that were recovered to Enugu State. So why is Delta State 40 million pounds to be used to build bridges in the north and some part of the west? So this is why we're in court. So we should encourage ourselves with things like this. Now, the state oil commissions that he's talking about, we are also fighting River State, Bayelsa State, not just Delta State. I'm telling you the truth. It was Governor Ibori when he was leaving, because I was among the Nagugram of this Desopadek. We said in the recommendation of the Revenue Mobilization Act of October 2002, they recommended in their book one, because the way it says, look, 30% derivation belongs to you people, the state, not the oil community. Musodiri tried to join the resource control case and say, no, it's the state. So they were arguing that, look, it is not actually the state, it is the communities that produce this oil. We need protection, not the state taking it up there. So when you say, look, the best way you people can do is if the state, which has the resources, receives the money, it can make a law on how to distribute the money to the oil communities, that the Supreme Court will not declare such a law unconstitutional. And that's why Ibori did it. And that's why we have it. So if a state cannot create oil commission to share the 30% derivation, that state has no right to fight for increase of 13% derivation, because we, the communities, are the people that feel it. So once again, I thank you very much. Your case on the issue of the Constitution is well noted. It's on that note that I will call on the Law Lord to come and make his presentation on the issues of inclusive governance and democratic responsibility under our Constitution. Please, on Justice Anthony Akpovi of the High Court of Justice, Furute of the State.
It's my pleasure to be here. I want to first our fathers. I'm always so impressed by our royal fathers in Delta State. They are very enlightened people. And I also come from the palace. My late uncle was your chairman, the late Oguri Meme, Okpara the First. So I grew up in the palace too. even though that's my father's mom's side, I'm also Agbaro. But I'm very familiar with royalty. And some of my royal fathers here, I served in your stations. I also want to recognize my spiritual leader, the chairman of PFN Delta State, Bishop Willie Abos, with his entire team that are here. I'm always so proud of him, because if the church stays away from issues like this, it will be a big error. A large portion of the people, the access to them is through the church. And the days when the royal fathers and leadership in the church say, leave them to be doing what they like, those days are gone. And it is the mistakes of the past that put us where we are now. The days when the professors said we are not politicians are gone too, because you gave it to them and you became only essays. So we're hoping that you will come back and take your mantle. So it's a pleasure. I want to thank the organizers, the patriots. I want to thank all those who came from far and near. And Chief Emeka Ayoku is somebody I've not met in person, but who I take as one of the best Nigerians that ever lived. I say that credibly, as an exceptional Nigerian. An exceptional Nigerian. In fact, when they were asking me one time, who would I recommend to lead Nigeria when I was a bit younger, I put his name down. And I said, this one is non-tribal, peculiar in his pursuits, an outstanding intellectual, an excellency of excellencies, and a man who has done Nigeria proud. So please send my regards to him. I have a few minutes to say so much. I was only asked yesterday officially and some few days ago by my younger one, Dr. Akpo Oje. Accountability, I will start from there, but before I start, I just want to, I'm holding this book because I'm trusting that I can read out quickly Toby JSC's position in Olafisoye against Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, it says ideal federalism or true federalism is different from specific or individual federal constitutions of nations, which may not be able to achieve the utopia of that ideal federalism or true federalism, but which in their own sphere are called federal constitutions. I think Nigeria falls into the latter category or group. It would therefore be wrong to propagate theories based on ideal or true federalism in a nation's constitution which does not admit such utopia. Because we must first understand that the litmus test, what is federalism, has been tested by the Supreme Court. What is federalism has been tested by the literary ones and the academia. We have passed that stage. We do know we have a challenge. What is the way forward? We cannot continue. I wrote here, are we to continue as guinea pigs when the first discussions were on? Are we to continue as guinea pigs? Are we on the test run where we are to be put like guinea pigs and be put into test? I shared with someone, in my younger days, I'm still young, I was one of those who had a vision for a new Niger Delta. And we brought our friends together with late Chief Sakutu, late Barrister Agidi, son to late Justice Agidi, and one or two of us went to Chief Dafinone, Hospital, Solomon Semota, and all of us, and we drafted what was then the NDDC bill. I still have my draft. In fact, when we lost Agidi in Lagos a few weeks ago or months ago, I sent to the sister, see what we came out at City Towers years ago. And I was the draftsman for the NDDC bill that metamorphosed to the present NDDC, and we sent it to Obasanjo. Unfortunately, because we are the younger ones, and we gave it to our political leaders, certain key sections that I myself put in were taken out. And that is accountability I'm starting with. If that section are not be taken out by our leaders, and I stand to challenge them if they are before me, we will not be where we are now. Niger Delta would have been the Dubai of Nigeria. Who is accounting for how much has gone through Niger Delta and what it has been used for? What forensic accountability has been presented since NDDC was set up? What I put there was all stakeholders, including foreign international agencies, including SPDC, Chevron, and the rest, must have their representatives on the board of NDDC, with the implication that even if the Nigerian corruption stigma touches the leadership, it will not touch the international representatives because they are accountable to a higher authority. That will mean that they would have ensured that international best practices were maintained. They plucked it off. And what did you have? A failed system where even some governors had no clue as to the contracts being sent to their states. Some kings saw roads being done in front of their palace. They did not know how it got there. How do you operate a system like that? Now, talking about accountability, I go back to a very key issue. In the Fifth Amendment, what happened there? Our leaders decided that Section 38 of the Constitution, which grants immunity against civil or criminal proceedings for public office holders, such as the president, the governor, and the deputies, while in office. The comment here from the BBC writer, he said, even though Nigerians are against this move, the National Assembly proposed the bill for its amendment to also benefit from the clause. The bill, which seeks to alter the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to expand immunity to the legislative and judicial arms of government, was ever rejected by the Senate and the House of Reps. Now, this is one of the rare occasions where I agree with their decision, the rejection. I will go further to say, if I have my way as a jurist and someone who has been in human rights in 18 years of law practice and now 22 years on the bench, 40 years this year as a lawyer, I would tell us that serving governors, serving politicians who are covered by immunity, that immunity should be taken off. From the day you started the job, be accountable every week to your people. Be what? Accountable every week. How can somebody write a constitution and say, we don't want the man to be distracted? That's the reason why he's having immunity. And so that he will not get too many lawsuits, he will have immunity. Take it off. Let your Attorney General and your Accountant General go and explain in court what you use the money for. Do you agree with me? Yes. So you can see that even me as a judiciary person, I agree with the National Assembly. Judiciary, legislature, executive. Take immunity off. Take it off. What are you using it for? People should be accountable. Now ask someone, federal institutions, state institutions. You have Servicom. Thank God the full VC is here. I've never seen Servicom work. It was created. I see some boxes in some institutions. Drop it there. I've never seen anybody the telephone to come and say, come and explain what happened. I don't know. What is the challenge? We come under different contraptions. We create contraptions for the comfort of our people. But in other words, it's not actually for the comfort of our people, it's for the comfort of our pocket. One government comes, it creates a new name. In our early days when we were talking about civil defense was supposed to be the community police. Go back and check. And the whole idea was create another force that have community base, that everybody within the local government, the street, the community can say, this is a grandson of the king, this is a son of the chief, this is a son of the politician. 1, 2, they grew up in the village, they are now civil defense. They work within their people. If their brother is stealing, they can identify him. Community police. Why did we not turn civil defense to now become police? Now we do not know the difference between civil defense and police. And now we're shouting again, state police. Even when you create state police, which I'm not objecting to, if the motive is faulty, there's a problem. The Bible says, if the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? Leadership, like I've said, I'm a student of John Maxwell, by the grace of God. I've read almost all his books. I believe that leadership is a matter of the individual. If you have no self-worth, you have no business leading. If you have nothing, no principle, you have no business leading. One of my fathers in the job as a judge is a former CJN of Nigeria. I've had many of them. My uncle, Justice Irikefe, was the CJN. Many of us do not recognize that Delta State had produced a Chief Justice of Nigeria in the past. But one of them in Northerner said to me, said, Akwavi, you took an oath. And so when your best friends have a choice as to what decision you will take, remember you took an oath. And that the oath has no recognition of best friend. Are you listening to me? And so if a leader wakes up and decides that he's being told to do something that when he leaves, legacy, what he will leave behind, they will question his time. He will think well and ask himself, is it a temporary pleasing or I'm here to leave a legacy? The self-worth determination of our leadership is a big problem for us in Nigeria. A man mistakenly collects some money in England and is an MP and they question him. He resigns. Yeah. Even when they find you committed crime and you're ex-convict, you don't resign. Eh? So there's a problem with our psyche. When I came to Delta as a lawyer from Lagos, I was told, where are we going? The challenge again. The challenge again. My friend from Ogwashiku, the doctor of professor of history, UI, what's his name? I spoke to him some time ago. I said, I'm happy you went to the House, to the National Assembly to get back history to our schools. One person woke up as a minister of education and took history out. Which country takes history out? What are you telling us? That forget, start a new template. If you take history out, you are finished. Anybody that has no histology is a failure. If you don't know where you are coming from, you cannot know where you are going. So I want to emphasize, as I try to round up, that there's so much challenges, but I agree with Prof. That our VC, that we should pick the 2014 confab, which I had my former boss too, Chief Deba Konde SCN, was secretary. We had our father, Nikki Toby, a lot of them. We should go back there. I was hoping when President Jonathan came here, I would be able to ask him. He left the other time before I could ask him. Yes, because I'm a very bold man. I only fear God. For those who know me, I wanted to ask, why did you not do this thing? So, because you see, opportunity only comes but once. Once. So I'm hoping that our future leaders will not make the same mistake of postponing what should be done now. The investment that was put into that confab, many of our elders who saw the 50s and the 40s and the 60s are all dead. Some of us are Gen Z. The people who know where we are coming from, where we were and where we were supposed to be going to, half of them are gone. So you cannot even be discussing a constitution without discussing the old discussion. Start from the old discussion, review it, and I agree with those who said, set up a panel, a review panel. Impress on the president to set up a panel